up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, it's too late to try to go contain it. A generation fueled by creation. We live lives on a small screen nation. We control the airwaves, no negotiation. I refuse to think we need saving. Something good will come from creation. And when we think that the world is too anxious, we'll adapt, evolve, survive, and save it. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. What keeps you up at night, yeah. Make all the demons quiet, yeah. We were built to thrive, yeah. I think that we've all had enough. Oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. You got me like, oh, yeah, I think that we've all had enough. Sick of dealing with the old plan. They know that we're calling it wrong. Hey.
This is Houston Control. Checking for backup. Backup initiated. Locking out all ports. Clear. And we are good to go.
All right, Roger, Houston, we've got it from here. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to Sovereign Soul Unchained Mind, where we come to you live from the International Fake Station, 250 miles above your imagination, in an area that the globies like to call outer space. Outer space, a place that could not exist at all, given current physical law. Only through equations and supposition can these conditions actually be true or exist. And we've been exploring that because this destroys the entire concept. So before we start discussing things that we see go by in the sky as a reference to tell the condition of the ground that we're standing on, we have to also wonder that if we follow the same logic of looking into the sky, seeing objects that we assume are spherical, and thereby assuming that because we see these objects in the sky, that must be what we're standing on, based all on the assumption that it's some sort of terra firma, the assumption that it is spherical. None of that that's all assumptions. Okay. So if I look up in the sky and I see a bird fly by, does that mean that I am a bird now? Is that what's going on? Is that going to make me be a bird? Is it a logical conclusion for me to think that I'm a bird because I looked in the sky and I saw another living creature go by and it was flying, and we call that a bird, so I must be a bird too? Does that make any sense to anybody out there? I really hope it doesn't, because if that's a level of, I don't even know how anybody could call it science. It's kind of like that Cavendish thing. You got some inbreed from the 1700s, some elite inbred guy hung some lead balls in a shed, never took into account weather conditions, wind, rain, any other such thing. He watched that shit, but he was worried about his own influence on it. And he watched it with binoculars, and because they came together, and that proves that it was done or something, or that with mass attracting mass. But as we've discussed before if I were to take and increase the mass of a helium balloon, the more that I increase it, the more its tendency to resist the mass of the Earth becomes. So that doesn't make any sense at all. So let's take a look and see who we've got here. Cavendish. Yeah, baking dish, whatever. And his glory hole balls. Absolutely. I mean, when you lay it right down to brass tacks, and these people that tout the Cavendish experiment have never actually done it. And if they have, they know what kind of frustration they ran into, because not only is it stupid, the results are often not consistent at all, if there's any. It's really quite a bear even to set it up. And for that, I mean, common sense would, I mean, that's just dumb anyways. I mean, wouldn't it stand to reason that if that was it, the bigger objects attract smaller objects, right? More dense objects attract less dense objects. Is that what we're supposed to believe? Then it would stand to reason that if you had a house and there's furniture in it, and that the largest and densest piece of material of furniture that you have in your home will accumulate a higher percentage of dust than the rest of the furniture in the house. But we don't witness that either. And of course, the Globies have their little excuse for that dumb shit where they say, oh, it's because you did. You mean the stuff you didn't take into account when you were doing your stupid Cavendish experiment? Get out of here. I would be embarrassed to use that as proof of any goddamn thing whatsoever, in any way, shape, or form on either side. It's the most ridiculous thing. And here we are in the 21st century, and we still got people going, there's a Cavendish experiment. Oh my God, just stop with your nonsense, please. I can't even, you know, really crazy. So I guess let me take a look and see who's in here. And I got some stuff coming up that I want to talk about. This thing always wants to default to top chat. And I don't see what top chat actually is, because y'all have something important to say, you say it. And you're doing that. So we got Axis Rat Blood with us. So nice of you to all show up in alphabetical order. That makes things very, very simple. Thank you so much. 2020 website, Axis Rat Blood is here. Axis Monday is here. Chilling, DJ Spin, Deborah Clark, Flat Top Hank, Ida Hat, Lev, how do you say that? Lev Kung Fu Shaolin. Okay, cool. I understand what that is. Shaolin monks and shit. I used to watch Kung Fu. That was a cool show, man. Melodome's here with us tonight. Good to see you, my brother, from another mother. Mr. B is with us, no longer on the ball. Push button 62, Roseanne. Is that Roseanne Massman? It could be. It could be. I believe it might be. RPB 3456 is with us. Thrashless Smith, Jehovah's Daughter Barbara, and ZXL Master, the ultimate in moderators. I have to say, if you have ZXL Master as a moderator, or you see him in chat, you are in great benefit for a wealth of knowledge on the topics at hand and everything else. So I think we owe ZXL Master a great deal of appreciation for the work that he does. I really do. I think he said he monitors like 50 freaking channels at one time or some shit like that. I'm like, wow, bro, that's insane. How do you do that? That's crazy. Yes, I am no longer on the ball. I am using a borrowed PC. Undocumented came over, and he brought me a replacement system that is a screaming ass system. It's really wow. So he brought it over. He installed a Windows operating system on it. He tested it all out and checked to ensure that all the communication was being routed through Langley. And this thing's just screaming right along. Now, what we do have is, because prior to him coming over with this, I had started to set up to do a stream yesterday. But due to time conflict, and by the time the thing booted up and got ready, I had already talked to Undocumented, and he had come over, and we were setting this thing up. So by the time it was all done, the streams are a safe place. So he got this hooked up for me. And then tonight, because we had the thing so we could use dual monitor, he brought a different monitor that would hook up to the video card that's in this system right now. And now we can do the dual screen thing over here. In fact, I can probably turn my quality up over here. Yeah, that's much, much gooder. That's much gooder. And yeah, so tonight he and his lovely wife, my cousin, came over, and we hooked up this monitor, and we sat and we shot the shit, and they just left the house. So they're probably just about coming on right now to check out the show, or anytime pretty soon, because they're only just a few miles down the road from me. I don't know why I didn't even think of that shit at all. I was just like, oh my God, these people fucked up my shit. You're going to fix it. And I get a mad on, and I'm going to stick, there it is. So on the Twitter scape today, okay, and I don't have Twitter logged in on here. Maybe I'll do that in a few minutes or something. But anyway, I ran across with the same old likely suspect. We had our friend Kenny Eating a Dick was up, and we had some other foolish people, Sleaze Pretzel, Surf Perzel, or whatever her name is. Really just the same cast of characters. And all of a sudden, I got hit up by not one, but two Glober shills. Okay. Two deceitful Glober shills who showed up. Okay. And one of those was Red's Rhetoric. And he, once again, in true glurf mode, tried to twist something around and make it seem that I said something that I didn't. And this is exactly how they operate on all levels. And the other was McToon. McToon hit me up, and he said, "You're welcome to come on and do it." And I said, "Well, I do streams. Okay. So that's cool, right? You can do it and I can do it, and we can both collaborate." So he wanted to set the conditions to be tomorrow at 8. And I was like, "Well, I'm sorry. I already have a show that comes on Tuesdays at that time. We're going to have to set it. Thursday's better for me." So tentatively, until I check back onto Twitter, I don't know when that's going to be, but supposedly McToon and I are going to be on streams together. And the conditions are this, and it's real fucking simple. I don't care about your math. Okay. I really don't, because I can make a mathematical equation that will support the hypothesis that Santa Claus can fly around the world and give everybody toys in one night. Okay. Do we know that this can be achieved in reality? No, it cannot. We already know this. Okay. Hopefully. I don't know. If you believe in the globe still, then maybe you do. I can't tell you. Oh, I did. I saw that, Melodome. That was bravo. You're doing all right. So anyway, I put the condition to this: only bring what you can prove. As I was demonstrating, a mathematical formula does nothing more than mathematically describe your hypothesis. Often in these formulas, we find that there's, and this is where the globies get fooled all the time. So what's the formula for buoyancy then, Dave? And I'm like, are you talking about the G in there? Is that what you're going to? You're talking about the effect of dense objects due to their weight falling within a given medium? Now, does that G stay consistent if I change the medium, like to water? Or how about fucking maple syrup? Let's see how that rolls one time. What's the rate of fall in an average maple syrup? I mean, gee, many crickets, bro. It's not hard to understand. So you only bring what you can prove. Now, I do not doubt that you can prove that things drop at a certain rate, even within what you call a vacuum. But you yourselves even admit that there's no such thing as a complete vacuum. That means there's still medium within the containment where the vacuum is required to have in order to have a vacuum. Okay? This is just common sense, people. Common sense. It's all common sense. So we've already discussed why things go down and why things go up. Okay? And if you are telling me that things go up because of a mysterious force called gravity, and when you talk about this mysterious force called gravity, you're merely describing the density of an object within a given medium. Otherwise, you mean that there's a force that's just as mysterious up in the sky. Okay? Don't try to bamboozle me with the effect and the cause being the same thing. We know that that's not a possibility. Okay? Secondly, as I said, only what you can prove. And so before we start looking at anything in the sky, in the movement of anything in the sky, we have to determine what the medium is in which those objects reside. And this has not been proven. Okay? Because the first thing we have to do is we have to prove that we can actually have a fluid pressure system at all without a container. And as everyone knows, it's an immutable fact that in order to have a fluid pressure, you must have a container. So I'm pinning the link up into the chat. I meant to do that earlier, but I spaced out and didn't do it. So now it's up there. Let's see. The problem with density is that it is a scalar factor. It has no direction. The direction's already been set, my friend. Gravity is a vector. It has a force and a direction. Well, yes, it does have a direction. And if you want to say that it has a force, yes, it absolutely does have a force. And that would be the displacement of the medium in which it's in. Okay? I was just explaining this earlier. Okay? This where I have this lighter at right now. There is a hole in the air, the shape of a Bic lighter right now. At all times, there is a hole in the air, the shape of this Bic lighter. Okay? So, this Bic lighter is much denser than the air that it's displacing. Right? So, we express this and quantify this in a scalar factor that we call weight. All right? So gravitas, or weight, is responsible for this thing floating or sinking. It is a factor. Now, when I let loose of this, of course, it's going to sink. It's going to sink downward, right? Why? Because that's where everything dense is at. Okay? And as it goes, what happens to the hole where the lighter was at? I'm not going to walk you through it. Just think about it. What happens? And you try to pull your vacuum chamber bullshit. As we discussed, the vacuum chamber is not empty. There's still medium within the vacuum chamber because you can't have a full vacuum. It just doesn't work, bro. So anyway, gravity relied on dark matter. Yeah, it doesn't at all. It's the only thing that holds this thing together. Now, even if you have your gravity, let's just suppose that there is some force in the earth that pulls things to it, right? You still have to prove that that force is strong enough to pressurize the gases. Okay? And you can't, because you can't have a one-sided fucking container. It won't work. All right? So any supposition otherwise is nothing more than hypothesis. And sure, you can make a mathematical formula to support that hypothesis, but you built it to describe the hypothesis. Okay? No good. No bueno. So, once again, as I illustrated with my reply to that, okay, a description of an effect is not the cause of the effect. That's all. We also want to take into account that if we're going to talk about these archaic ideas and people, Archimedes, his Archimedes' principle predates Newton by like I think 1900 years or some shit like that. In other words, Archimedes never even factored that in. What did he factor in? He did factor in the weight. Okay, some other bozo came along and decided why it was had a weight. Okay, with no proof of it whatsoever. Because had the apple fallen into a bucket of water next to him, he might not have thought that crazy shit. He might not have thought that crazy shit at all. They probably just said he did and he was dead and he couldn't say he didn't. So I don't know, man. But in all reality, that's just it's ridiculous in its concept whatsoever. This whole thing is working with a series of factors involved. And as I demonstrated the other night, a gradient of pressure of a fluid is only due to the volume of the fluid it's building up. And it's just like somebody else, I think they put it really beautiful, man. They put it like this. There's man, what's up, brother?
What's up, my dude? I saw you at that midget wrestling. That was crazy, man. You're doing crazy stuff out here.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. They're called the Dwarfinators. You can follow them on Facebook, and they travel around the country and they have these events, right? And it hit me by surprise. I never even knew of such a thing, and it just came up on my Facebook one day and said that there was dwarf wrestling or midget wrestling going to go on over here in Woodstock. And I was like, oh, fuck, I can't miss that. We gotta check that out. And I wasn't the only one. Most of the people there were like, I saw that. I had to come see this, you know. So we went there and it was really cool. It was entertaining. It was worth the, it wasn't expensive or anything like that. But I mean, hell, it was fun as shit. Those guys were really putting on a hell of a show. I mean, it's not real. They don't expect you to think it's real, but they actually they come out in the audience and wrestle and shit. It's pretty cool. They end up crashing into people and shit. It's funny.
Oh wow, man. Yeah, no, that was crazy. Well, what's this? What's this stuff in the chat? They're talking about the vacuum. I'm confused here. They keep, bringing it up with the gravity thing. It's like
there's no such thing as a vacuum. Okay.
How many times have you shown those little experiment thingy majiggies in your short videos?
It's like, look, that right there. Where is a vacuum? There is no vacuum anywhere. Okay. The condition is set. Okay. We're on a negative. It's positive above us. Okay. It's Gaussian surfaces. It's not a strong force. Okay. It's about the same as what you got going on when you ever pull a towel out of the laundry basket. You just took it out of the dryer and you go to shake it out. And instead of going to the ground, it slaps back and sticks to your legs. Right.
Yeah.
What happened there? Where's gravity? You understand what's happening there, right? So this is the weak charge that we live in, and that determines the condition. Once that condition has already been determined, it's going to stay that way. Okay, it's going to stay that way. It's going to be the dense things at the bottom, the more like charged is going to be down, and the more opposite charge is going to be pushed apart. You see, it's real simple. They can even done that.
I've always thought, like, the stuff that's fascinated me about those things is like the magnetic aspect of it, the electromagnetic, like free energy and the magnetic aspect of things.
It's real simple, man. If you keep this fundamental idea alive in your head at all times, okay? Magnetism and electricity are brother and sister. Where you find one, you have the other. So we've got these compasses, right? That work through using a magnet, right? Where's that magnetic field is obviously around us, right? So that what else is going to be around us? Electricity. 100 volts per meter as you rise in elevation. So that sets the condition. The rest of it's all just buoyancy and density. Submarines work on this principle. Airships work on this principle. I mean, it's not an alien thing, you know. It just within the last 400 years has this other bullshit been introduced to it. And I think that's one of the reasons when you look at these old photographs from the late 1800s and early 1900s, the skies are all bleached out. Like they got vanilla skies. You don't like they purposely obliterated something from the photographs.
You ever seen the Kingsman movies? You know, Kingsman, the spy movies. It's like the British
Yeah,
tailors, and then they made the what was it? The Statesman. It was like the people in
yeah,
America. Right, yeah. I always remember, I forget which one it was, but there was that one movie with Samuel L. Jackson as the villain where he had a lisp and he created that frequency and gave the world free internet through his devices.
yeah.
And it made people like cognitively crazy, like, you know, they were just aggressive, they didn't think emotionally or whatever. And I often wonder, like, if with the invention of the information era, with all the technology and Wi-Fi and just dial-up, whatever, fucking,
Right.
I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but I often wonder if those things have impacted our ability to critically think, and if we're more susceptible to these kind of false narratives on a mainstream scale because of said technology being so in our surrounding all day, all night.
Well, look, man, I don't know what it's done, but it's made people say some of the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. Okay. So on this whole thing about this, pressure requires containment, right? The act of pressing. So we know that pressure requires containment. And he says, well, what about the oceans? They have pressure and they're not contained. I said, they're not. What do you mean they're not contained? So what do you call the basin that the water is in? And he says, oh, so no entropy in your flat earth? And I said, what the hell are you talking about? He says, why doesn't the water equalize with the air? And I went, what in the fuck is this guy talking about? Are you really asking me why the water doesn't jump up out of the basin into the air? Didn't I just explain to you that water is denser than air, so it lies beneath the air? You see
Right.
why you can't breathe underwater, dumbasses? Holy shit.
It's
This is
crazy.
what they hit me with, dude. This is what they hit me with, brother. And I can't even, I just go, wow, you got to be shitting me. Right? And as simple as my demonstration was with the bowl, half full of water, 3/4 of the way full of water, turned upside down, treating the water as gas. Okay. Showing how there's a gradient of pressure as you go down deeper into the water, which we're saying is gas, because it works the same fucking way. But it has to be contained within something in order for it to build up to have that pressure. Where does that come from? Because it's pushing against everything that's making it not spread out. That's where
And
the pressure comes from. It's
that's
not
what's
just
always
down. Look, it's not just down. This is where they can't get their mind around. When
right.
you are down, say 35, let's just say 60 feet underwater, you can feel the pressure, right? But that pressure is not coming from above. That pressure is coming from all around. All around your entire body feels that pressure, not down like you're in a stack of pallets or some shit. This is how they can't get their mind around how fluids operate, how the fluid dynamics work. And they rely on other people not realizing that either. So the pressure you feel on your body all around you is a result of you displacing this volume of contained gaseous material that's straining against its containment to equalize. It's in a state of disequilibrium. And so it pushes against your body, and we feel 14.7 pounds per square inch. Now, we don't think of that as much, but it is all that is required to turn gaseous liquid into, or gaseous water into liquid water, because liquid water could not exist without pressure. And that pressure is the 14.7 that we're under right now. So,
And that's what's always tripped me out about like the ocean, because the ocean, you do like experiments according to how the physics work inside of water. It's completely different from how you're on the moon and whatnot. And it's like another thing that always bugs me about that is like we have so much more information about quote unquote space than we have about the ocean. I mean, we refuse to look further into the ocean or just don't for financial reasons. I don't know.
oh yeah. So Mr. B says that to clarify the electric fields and magnetic fields are related under moving conditions. No, not really, because you have already the magnet within where it's at in that field is electric potential. Okay. It just needs the elements to conduct it. That's all. It needs the various elements to conduct it. But yeah, you're right. I know where you're coming from, Mr. B. Absolutely. That's smart, Mr. B. We used to have another Mr. B, but he doesn't come around anymore. That's too bad. But anyways, yeah, there is no space. I mean, not as defined by science.
Right.
Or scientism, I should say. Because for to claim that there's a void that's a vacuum is impossible. Right? How could you have a void without containment? And how can it be a void, but there's stuff in it? You're muted.
Sorry, I was showing my girlfriend Deborah Clark's comment. It said there is no space. That's why I didn't want to interrupt her.
Right. Well, the whole thing is that you got to think about it. All right, there's space is a vacuum, it's a void, right?
My girlfriend's a hard globy. I'm in the middle. You know what I mean? I'm
Oh, yeah.
leaning more flat. Get out of here.
So no, check it out. I mean, she needs to hear it. This is absolutely tantamount, and you have to think about this. So space could not be a vacuum. After all, it does have things in it, right? So they say, oh, it's a near vacuum or shit. Okay, but it's not a vacuum. It's stuff is in it. It has material. And you can't have that condition without containment. The only place a vacuum like that can be demonstrated is within a special chamber here on Earth, one of which they have in Sandusky, Ohio. It's called the Glen Allen Research Facility, and it has, I think it's either 8 or 10 foot thick concrete, steel reinforced concrete walls. I mean, this thing's massive, and they cannot achieve a absolute vacuum in there at all. All they can do is achieve very low pressure. That's all anyone can do is very low pressure, because there is no such thing as an actual vacuum in nature, which means there is material within that chamber. So that's like a trick. I mean, you can do some interesting things with that with low pressure, and show how low pressure reacts with objects, but you're still succumbing to the same rules, because you can't have fluid pressure without containment. And of course, as demonstrated, you can't have a vacuum without containment. And it is impossible to achieve an absolute vacuum. So
And that's what trips me out about the glove theory too. Is like, I mean, obviously we've had this conversation before. I'm gonna keep rinsing and repeating for chat and yourself. But growing up K through 12, I went to Catholic school and then high school and college. And you when you look at that, you think about how we are protected from, this infinite universe with an unlimited force of destruction heading our way every second of every hey Athena every second of every day. And it's kind of annoying. Cut that out. I got a black German Shepherd here. It's kind of annoying that like it all boils down to the Van Allen radiation belt.
Hell yeah,
You know?
the Van Halen radiation belt. Teacher, wow, you're going up there, man.
It's literally crazy. Like that to me just drives me crazy. The Van Allen radiation belt. Like they named it after him, and he said we can't get through it. There's no way we can do it. This is never gonna happen.
Right.
You know.
Well, see, they were able to go through it in 1969 and with 5 or 4 more missions because they hadn't discovered it yet. You see, that's just like at night, you know, if you don't turn on the light and you leave the bathroom door closed, you can go right through it because you didn't see that it was closed. Right? Makes as much goddamn sense. I mean, this is the kind of bullshit that they try to feed you at every turn, and it's all mental trickery. Every last bit of it is mental trickery designed to capture your mind through your imagination. Look how many times these fools use that bullshit about imagination.
And you know, a great example I'd like to use here too is like my girlfriend, along with so many other people that just believe that the Earth is a globe based on the smart people saying so, right? I always find that like so funny because right now I'm going to bring up something like a lot of these things that I bring up through research. I'm not a freaking rocket scientist. I didn't go to school for rocketry. I practice law. I told you that. So it's like for me, what drives me crazy is when you look at the Germans and how they were going over to where my family's originally from in India, Tibet, and looking up all this, ancient, real freaking Houdini shit from thousands of years old Sanskrit. And then they come back to Europe and they have these V rockets that would launch from Germany and create an upside down V and then land in London. And I had family in London at the time. The British colonized India, so the Indians have been there for a while. And it was just crazy, like the technology they had. They were working on the atomic bomb before Albert Einstein snitched on them, according to mainstream history.
Yeah.
And a lot of people say nukes aren't real either. But it's just stuff like that. When I bring up like points of evidence, people that are just like, I believe in the globe, but they don't even know about half this shit. And it's like, how do you not know about this stuff? You got to look into it, right? I mean, if
do you know
there's
what I find the most suspicious about nukes? So supposedly all these different people have nukes, right? And when I was I think it was in the 80s, there was this kid, really smart kid.
Yeah.
And his high school science fair project was he made a functional nuclear bomb. The only thing missing was the fusion material, the plutonium. Everybody went ape shit. They showed it on the news. If it's this easy for this high school kid, just think what Islamic terrorists could do, right? Okay, listen. This is, stay with me here. This is in the 80s. So nukes have been around since 1945, supposedly. And here we are in 2023, and no one has ever used one. Why? Not even a small one.
Yeah.
And you figure with that going on, somebody, Israel, would have probably have done it by now.
I love how you said that quietly.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's crazy. The only time we ever even used the H bomb, the atomic bomb, was on Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
And those were continuously 24-hour around the clock firebombed into total destruction prior to any of this nonsense. I mean, they looked like that before we did this. It's all a fear campaign. It's all to keep you in fear. And they work on you as little kids. They say, all right, we're going to have this nuclear drill. We have a special guy coming in. They did this with us, with his kids, right? And they showed us film of houses and shit getting destroyed and how powerful a nuclear bomb is. And then told us and gave us drills and how we should get underneath our desk and curl up in a ball. And I was the kid that stood up and said, why are we doing this? So that you can know who's dead where. I mean, that's not going to save anybody. That's dumb. That's like that kind of thinking is the type of people that go, oh shit, man. If an elevator drops and the cable breaks, all you got to do is just wait before until it almost hits the bottom and then jump up. You'll be okay. What?
Right.
Come on, man. Drop a slinky. Learn physics. Holy Jesus, criminally, bro. It just gets me sometimes. But ask your girlfriend if she's there right now. What makes her completely believe
It
that
put me off. That's rude. What was the question? Say it again. And sorry, Mr. B, I didn't know what. I was just layman's term: H bomb, dirty bomb, A bomb, whatever bomb. What was your question?
Gigantic bombs that are purported to be from the splitting or whatever. The ones we're talking about, the ones that got everybody afraid of. People weren't afraid enough of incendiary bombs, so they had.
Okay, let me ask you just one question, then I'll leave you alone. Sovereign, what was the question?
You can just ask her. She don't gotta come on. You can just.
No. Okay, yeah. What's the question?
All right. So, what is her number one reason for thinking that the Earth is a globe?
Oh, this is gonna be good because we're both heaven.
Number
we're
one reason. All of them.
Believers of Jesus and the heavenly word.
You already know what I'm gonna say.
Well, say it. Come on, just come stand right here and say it so they can hear you. You don't have to show your face. It's okay. The FBI is not watching, I promise. Well, I don't know.
Oh, no, they are. No, they are. Yeah. Shout out to my agent. And you fellas down there at Langley.
Come on. Okay, we'll say it. It's because what?
I know why. So
Just say it, babe, please. Come on.
Because I believe in the Bible, and the Bible says it's round.
Yeah, but round isn't sphere. And you know that the ancients also had a word for circle, and they had a separate word for sphere. And how can you draw a sphere? How can you make a sphere with a compass? Have you ever tried to use a compass on a sphere?
I doubt it. Have you?
No.
Yeah, no. But her belief is that the Bible states, it's not flat, so it says it's round. But I've explained to her, like I've read the Quran, I speak 4 languages, so I've read the Quran Sahib, I've read the Torah, bits of the Kabbalah, and I've had the blessing of reading all religious manuscripts that all in the Bible, and it's not, it's really out for debate. They don't say. I mean,
it says if you go into Enoch, right?
Yeah.
Enoch is telling you how the thing works. There's a reason it wasn't canonized, and if you really look into it, it does. It's pretty concise if you get into it. So you got that. We also have the references in the very Bible that the earth is stamped like a seal stamped in clay and remains motionless on its foundation. In the creation story, it says nothing about God made a globe, right? But it does say he separated the waters above from the waters below. Okay. So he said.
Oh, wow. Somebody in the comments named Chilling said, pretty sure there's over 200 references in the Bible of the flat earth. And here's the crazy part. I went to Catholic school for fucking 8 years of my elementary school.
Listen, the Catholics are all in, man. That's they are, bro. Come on. Religion is not God.
Oh, Lord. And everyone is saying about the bar in the state of California and the state of Washington, but not anywhere else. I'm only 30 years old. I started very recently.
Yeah, see,
it's a very distasteful experience for me. I'll give you that much. People are very materialistic and sociopathic. And as a child, I thought, jurisprudence was a beautiful thing, helping people practicing the law. It felt noble. It's really just a bunch of scumbags. But, it's good money and gives you kind of an edge on the bullshit and the debauchery. It's like one of the main reasons I ever woke up to the Illuminati or, this idea of God and the devil. Actually, like the movie The Devil's Advocate is a great example of how, it's just, and it's for me, it's stuff like that. That's such a strong factor that I would lean more towards believing we live in a flat plane and we are the only thing in the creation that we exist in. The most important thing, it's stuff like that.
We are here for purpose. And the thing is this too, is another thing scripturally too, if we want to go there. Now, keep in mind, I don't go to scripture as proof of our realm. The scriptures happen to correlate with what I have found to be true. Okay, that's the way I see it. The scriptures, I don't think this or I know this because of scripture. I just point to the idea that the scriptures go along with what I have found to be true, right? So there goes that we've known it's a globe for 2,000 years argument crap, right? I don't even want to hear their bullshit on that no more. That's insane. But you also have to look at it this way. So God created the heavens and the earth, right? And he created night and day. But when did he create the sun and the moon? Oh, that's right. It was on the sixth day. Oh,
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say.
So
Wait, is that a joke?
no, that's real. Dude.
Okay, I was like,
Yeah.
didn't they all say
So
that?
he made the sun later and then decided to set us in motion around it, even though he'd already made day and night.
Yeah. You know what trips me out, man? This is kind of a dumb caveman comment, but like I've always told you, it's just your channel is so fascinating to me, man. I love the brain juice I get from it and the entertainment. It's better than anything on TV. But ever since I've been like enlightened to this stuff, I look up in the sky and I'll see the moon and the sun way more. You know, and I'm not trying to say like that's proof the Earth is flat. Like, don't get out in the chat. You know, but it's just
It's
weird. Like, I
natural.
didn't notice it before.
Your
As much as I
subconscious.
do now.
It's your subconscious, bro. You're on it. It's your higher self telling you something, and there's a reason that you're being drawn your attention to it. Nothing happens by accident.
It'll like the moon will be over there and the sun will be over here, and I'm like, this is a trip, dude. Like, because according when you look at those old ancient before Copernicus and when everyone thought the Earth was flat and stuff, those maps show it kind of doing this shit, right? Not this shit, right?
Right.
It's kind of hovering over. And so when I'll be like at night, you know, you smoke a joint, it's been a rough week, you know, it's fucking you just want to kind of relax. You
Yeah.
look up and freaking it's like you can see the moon and it's full, and then you look over and the sun's setting too, and you're just like, what's
No.
going on?
I know, right? And you're like trying to work it out in your head of how that can be looking that way and shit, right? I know. I do it all the time. The one that fucked me up really good was the smiley face moon. I had never seen one before, and I was like, what? I've never seen a crescent moon that was like this instead of like this or like this. This sucker was like that. And I'm like, you got to be shitting me. What's going on? Like a Cheshire cat smiling or something, you know? A Cheshire moon.
Yeah, and you know, it's like crazy. Like this guy in the chat, Charlie. Well, I see you got a lot of these like trolls. They love
Yeah, you know
trolls.
what I'm going to do? Charlie Welch was a real nasty son of a bitch.
Yeah, but you know, the thing
No. I
Yeah.
tolerated his trolling bullshit, but
Yeah.
as you might have saw through my posts and on the video that I did, that my sister-in-law was befallen by some real problem that's going to hurt her financially, right? And so my wife started a GoFundMe page, right?
Yeah.
And his comment was just an utter nasty fucking bullshit thing to say and completely inappropriate to it. And I decided that the next time that he came on, I was going to ban him completely from my show.
For sure. I just wanted to say,
I mean, I'll tolerate. You say what you want to about me, right? But my sister-in-law, sister-in-law wouldn't say shit if she had a mouthful of it. I'm not kidding you. She's and she's just going down the road. She's getting ready to go move and up north to be around some more family. And she had just got this car, so she's driving down Interstate 81, and where somebody had carelessly left a fucking pry bar or some shit unsecured, a truck kicked it up. It went under her car, went up underneath of the undercarriage, hit the oil pan and cracked the fucking block. $3,500 it's going to cost to fix that car. She's devastated, man.
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
like
we're trying to get some shit done about that. And his comment, I'm not even going to fucking repeat it because I deleted it off my page too.
Yeah.
And I don't delete comments. I don't delete comments. But I did that one because that was really just a distasteful fucking piece of shit, garbage thing to do.
I didn't mean to bring him up. You don't need to give him all that stage.
I wanted to. I wanted to
I
bring
was
it up,
just
bro.
responding to his bullshit comment about what a think tank, and I think it's ironic that people, the guy that's sitting broke at 58, 65 years old, that's trying to tell you how to build your credit score. It's like that kind of shit. It pisses me off. All these trolls, they don't actually have any kind of, like, I'm willing to sit down and have a non-biased, open mind. Tell me. And
Right.
all they got is bullshit and insults, and it's like, come on, man. Like, why is it that I can have a better, more intellectual conversation with people who are into pseudoscience or whatever the fuck you guys are, coming at me
Yeah.
about? Like, I'm just trying to talk about it all. It doesn't have to be a think tank. Like,
Well,
we're not trying to.
it just goes to show what the character of these fucking assholes are. That they have no, they're soulless beings. Okay, they really are. They sit at home and jack off to Star Trek. I mean, they're just nerds. This whole globe and space bullshit ain't nothing but Dungeons and Dragons for nerds, for space nerds. That's all it is, because none of it stands to any goddamn scrutiny.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't delete people's comments. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
And I have had to get after a lot of my some of my mods for censoring people when there's no need to censor them. I don't care, right?
From
But
what I know, Jehovah's Daughter Barbara,
yeah,
insurance still charges a deductible, and even if it's like one of those things where it's not your fault, you still have to pay like a deductible,
yeah.
which
It
ends up being
was
$1,000.
it wasn't a brand new car. She bought a used car, and of course, that's going to be PLNPD on it or whatever too. Or
I had
I know
somebody
I
hit
could
me
be
once.
mistaken. I just know the cost. That could be the deductible. I don't know for such a
I
guy.
had somebody hit me once, Sovereign, and I was like 100% sure just from everything I knew, but I had never been in an accident before, like where someone hit me and I was not at fault. I had a few accidents as a kid growing up where it was I was at fault, but like the accident where I was hit, the shop that fixed my Audi, they freaking it's like a newer Audi, so they spent time on it and it was a lot of money. And when they fixed it, they charged me $1,000 deductible. And I was like, this doesn't make sense. So I called Geico, who the insured was that hit me, and they were like, yeah, no, they shouldn't have charged you anything. And then because I called the insurance company, then the shop was like, oops, yeah, we'll give you that $1,000 in a check or refund it right away. But it was like, could you imagine how many people just give that 1,000 to the shop to get their car back and then never investigate whether they should have paid it or not? Like,
Yep.
there's crooks everywhere. And that's another thing. Corruption and debauchery and crookery, it's just everywhere. It's hard to
Yeah.
believe anything anymore. What's going on with our kids in schools,
Oh my God.
government?
It's bass backward shit, and I've had it up to my ear. Let me tell you something, an experiment that I did with this crap. All right, so I learned from globe trolls and how they work. And I have found that if you employ those exact same tactics against them, they fucking melt down. They completely melt down. Okay, so one of the things they like to do is they'll take something that you say and twist it around as though you said something different, and then hold you to it and say, so you just said this and you're now jumping from your, or whatever the fuck, right? And that's how they do. All right, so I started doing that with this motherfucker the other night, and I got him so mad. I turned it into, he was talking with one guy about the buoyancy of an orange. The flat earther brought up the buoyancy of an orange with and without the peel and water, right? And why that would be. And then he was also talking about some shit about the moon.
Right.
So I just made it. I said, so your claim is that they grow oranges on the moon? That's what I ended up twisting it down to. And he's like, I never said such a thing. So I said, oh, yeah, well, you probably deleted the tweet now because it was so embarrassing. And I put that out there, and he got so mad. He said, I'm going to sue you. And I'm like, well, go ahead. I don't give
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Listen, they can't fucking handle it. You hit them back with their same bullshit. And, dude, baby, I can go troll level 10.
I'll tell you right now, first and foremost, most people can't afford the lawsuits they threaten in this country. It's freaking ironic. Lawyers aren't cheap. They don't come cheap.
Listen, I'll have you fucking backed up with delay and shit. You'll die before it sees the day.
Sovereign, okay, I gotta ask you, are you one of those guys that goes into court and questions maritime law and makes judges go, whoa, what the fuck? Because I've had a few of those in courtrooms when I've been
No,
working.
I don't go.
It's crazy, dude.
I don't go into court, man. The last time,
You don't go, huh? You know better.
well, last time was I had they charged me with trying to a felon trying to purchase a firearm, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And uh, they found out that that wasn't true because I had what's called a nondescript felony on my record from 1994. And after 3 years and all, after your whole sentence is served, like all your probation is done, all your fines are done, and everything else like that, 3 years from that time, your rights are automatically restored. Okay, and this is from where I got this felony at, right? Okay,
Right.
so they tried to boost it by saying that I had intentionally not checked a box or lied or something on the fucking NICS form. So I defended myself. The lawyer didn't want to take it to trial. He quit. And I said, I'll do it. I ain't afraid. I ain't. I went in
We
there.
like to plea out. Most people don't know, but most lawyers, they like to plea out. You know, they like to
Yeah, that's all they know
convince
how
you
to
to plead
do.
guilty, you know?
They don't know how to do it. So because they don't have logical thinking minds. They've
Right,
memorized shit. That's all they do is memorize shit. Okay.
right.
So I'm sitting there and you've watched me before when I'm listening to somebody tell me something, I'm dissecting every fucking thing they're saying. Okay. I'm actually looking into the deepest meaning of what they're saying is, right? So I am like Johnny on the spot with fucking objections and shit. So I'm sitting there and they're talking to the vendor. And he says, and what kind of a rifle was Mr. Kane trying to purchase? And I said, objection, relevance. And he says, well, it does have relevance. The prosecutor did. And I said, sidebar.
You said sidebar as
Yeah.
a civilian?
Fucking
Oh
right,
my
right?
God, that's so hard, dude.
So I went up to the, and I told him, I was like, no, I says that in this political climate, the type of firearm can definitely prejudice the decision and outcome of the jury. So
Wow, that is good. You know, it's always frowned upon when someone knows.
So check it out. Every one of my objections was sustained. And then for my closing, and when I crossed, I asked the guy, he was the vendor. I asked him, I says, now, can you describe your setup at the gun show? And he did. He says, now, what was around you in that near vicinity? Just within 30 yards of you, can you describe everything that was in the vicinity?
You subpoenaed the witness or the police?
They did.
Oh, they did. Okay.
Cross-examining me, right?
Okay.
He described that, and I says, now, were all of those vendors, were all of them FFL dealers? And he says, no. And I said, so there were people there that had private sales of firearms and were not FFC, right? Or they were not FFL licensed, right?
Right.
That's correct. And I said, why is that? And he says, because in Virginia, you don't have to have an FFL to do a private sale of a privately owned firearm. And that used to be the law at the time, right?
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I said, now, if a person were to want to go there and knowingly not be able to actually legally own a firearm, it seemed logical that they would sit down at a table of an FFL licensed firearm dealer and fill out a NICS system questionnaire and have you do a background check, when I could have went to any one of the other tables around you, purchased the same firearm, only in used condition, without having to give any kind of identification at all. Now, who would do that?
Right.
They out the door I went, baby, and they were trying to get me for 18 fucking years. But I wasn't afraid. I go in there and I know what to ask. I know how to hold myself when I'm talking to people. You know, these guys in their
most judges will try to like force people. So what happens in court? Like we'll have, obviously I got my client that I got to represent. Go talk to the prosecutor at the lawyer's bench. Okay, this is my client. If you're in a hurry, you can jump ahead of the freaking public defenders and stuff. But a lot of times people will come and try to represent themselves. They just intentionally want to represent themselves, and the judges and the prosecutor will try to kind of intimidate them into coming back with a lawyer, or they'll have them wait until everybody in court for that session has been heard, and there'll be like a lunch recess, and then like, you just gotta wait. So it's like, fuck, I better just get a lawyer next time. I've been here all goddamn day, you know. It's just like they do everything they can to kind of make you feel like it's what would you say, unethical to walk in without counsel, you know. And I've always found that to be intriguing, because I think it's great if a guy like you can walk in and talk that talk, say sidebar, you know, and get your objection sustained. I mean, well, you clearly know what you're doing. Who is to tell you what or what not? That buddy boy club shit pisses me off. If a
Well,
guy
I'll
knows
tell
how to,
you, listen,
you know,
listen, man. The prosecutor, after that it was all done, said and done, the prosecutor came up and said, "I'm impressed. Where did you study law?" And I said, "On YouTube, bro."
okay, don't give YouTube that much credit. You're just
No,
you.
for real. I mean, I
That's
just looked up shit.
honest.
I mean, Google and, you know, go in and I looked up how case law works and all that other
Right.
shit.
Yeah, there's a lot of
I mean,
lawyers that just have a bunch of videos about
but
stuff.
you
Yeah.
know, the best rule of thumb is just stay off their playing field, right? I'm to paraphrase the late Jordan Maxwell. Okay.
R.I.P.
It's the judicial system is a racket. And this is why they play it in a court. And they're going to beat your ass around like a fucking tennis ball at every opportunity that they can. Everybody in there is working for the same motherfucker trying to put you down. You have to
Right.
understand that. Everybody in there.
Yeah. And that's why I always say private defense is good. You know, people will always ask, well, why should you know, like you'll have parents that have, you know, kids that drove drunk or high and they're getting a DUI. They're 19 in college, 20 in college, and they don't got money for representation, private defense, and they'll come and have consultations at the firm, and you know, we'll have a conversation at the end. It's like, okay, well, $15,000 is going to be a lot of money, even in payment form. Why should we do that if we can just get counsel for free because our child doesn't work? And we don't make enough money to pay you, you know?
Right,
And
right.
I always say those public defenders work in the same fucking building that the prosecutors and the DA work in, right? The district attorney. So
Right.
you can get them to work for you, but they got a caseload they have no choice over. And they can only do so much. If they step on too many toes, they might get fired from their post. But when you get a private defense lawyer to represent you, I'm not saying we aren't scumbags either, but you know, we got the money and the resources and a different address to walk into that courthouse and try to play ball and box it out, you know. And a lot of people don't understand it. Like you said, it is so corrupt. Jordan Maxwell was one of the great legends I used to watch as a kid, you know, freaking William Cooper, all the Bill Cooper, all these people. There's so many of them. David Icke. I mean, it just goes on and on. A lot of people are like, oh, that guy's a show. Oh, that guy's fake. Oh, that guy, whatever. But he was one of them. Jordan Maxwell was huge. And what he says is so correct because, like you said, most lawyers do not go to trial. The plea conviction rate, the plea
It's all
bargaining
deal.
rate, federal and state, is over 90% in every state, folks. And I'm a 30-year-old man. So this is what, early 2010s to now, the last 13 years, I've been seeing this go down from school to professional work. The plea conviction rate is so much higher than it's ever been in this country, which means if a police officer has cuffed you and you come from a decent home and you got some money for a lawyer, you're probably going to cop out to a lesser charge. And that sucks.
Dude, that's
That
why they
fucking
hit you with the
sucks.
that's why they hit you with the hardest fucking thing they possibly can.
Right.
So
Right.
you'll be willing to plead down to that bullshit. But if you examine it yourself and you figure, you go look at it and go, they don't have a goddamn thing. And you go in there confident enough, knowing that they don't have any goddamn thing, then you can do pretty good. Mr. B said, having most of the states eliminated gun show loopholes, Dave. I don't like that term loophole because all it is a private sale. Who is to tell two grown men what they can and cannot sell to one another? That's nobody's business, right? So as much good as it's done for the gun show loophole, all that's done is eliminate a lot of attendance to gun shows, because how are you going to track a bunch of guns that you didn't have track of in the first fucking place? And whether or not Billy Bob wants to sell his AR-15 to his brother-in-law or whoever else, there's no record of it even being in Billy Bob's hands in the first goddamn place. So there you go. Right? That's not all it's done is eliminated the attendance at gun shows unless people are going to buy ammunition.
Well, I'm going to take a shot in the name of Sovereign's jurisprudence abilities without having gone to law school. That is quite impressive, sir. Cheers.
Well, I gotta say, there was a part of me was nervous as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs, but I just held it to my own, kept my cool, and did my shit, and said, this is all in God's hands, really. Let's see what
I
happens.
mean, it is impressive because most people shit their pants in those situations. And then the gun thing, too. I was going to ask you about the gun thing. We are the only nation in the world. I mean, you look at Australia, you look at Europe, how they manage to get people to turn their shit in or control the guns. And the U.S., it's like that Japanese general said, behind every blade of grass is a American with a gun.
Right.
How do you get the guns away from the American people? That is the biggest problem for the elite that
Yeah.
control the throne.
Well,
It
you
really
got to
is.
control their mind first, right? You got to control their mind. And how do you control their mind? You get them afraid of said object. So how do you get people to be afraid of that object? You're not going to do it right away, right? But if you have a few events that really are tragic and tug at your heartstrings, whether they be real or not, okay, and that you think as an adult that tugs at your heartstrings, think what that does to kids. Think what that does to kids, right? And especially when they're being inundated through the public indoctrination centers that these are evil things and only bad people have them unless they have a special costume on, blah, 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 blah. These kids come out thinking this is insane because I was always taught that the only people that should have guns are the army and police,
Yeah, well, I was a victim of that. So I told you I was born in New York City, right? 9/11. I was locked in my Assumption Catholic School in Manhattan Island until like 2 a.m. NYPD transported each student home to their family. And my family lived in Queens, and that's where I was born, in Queens. And we had to move to the West Coast in 2002 because things got so crazy. And as I was in third grade at the time, and as a child, my father hammered that shit in my head. I wanted a water gun to play with my neighbor friends, and I got yelled at for that. It was serious, dude. You're a freaking terrorist in this country. You don't touch that stuff. You don't talk about that stuff. And then when I went to freaking college and I started to meet friends who were of the conservative leaning, right? And they like to go shooting and hunting and take me out. I'd go and I'd talk too much and it would annoy them because you have to be very quiet for long periods of time when you go hunting. But it was a great experience, and I got to use guns, and I was like, man, this shit's fucking awesome. I wish I had more of an experience with it because the right to bear arms is a beautiful right, man, and it's one of the things that makes it so great.
See, there's where the kicker is. Okay, like I said before, they trick you with words, right?
Right.
So, is a gun a firearm or is it an arm?
Ooh. Well, I would say it's an arm, but I'm going to take that.
It is. But if you admit that it's a firearm, now you've just classified it as a commercial item.
Right.
Now it's subject to regulation and tax.
Under federal code. Wow. Holy shit.
Wordplay? You see the wordplay?
Yeah, that's creepy, man. You're freaking me out, dude. It's literally a matter of just saying that differently to a cop, right? Your life.
It is, and it's just like what we were talking about earlier. Like the pressure. Okay,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Where does that word come from? What's the root word of pressure?
Oh, where's my iPhone?
Press, right? So if you have pressure on something, that means that something's doing what to it?
It's pressing.
It's pressing on it.
Yeah, something. Right? Yeah.
So is the air actually causing 14.7 psi? No, you are. It could be, there's your relativity. There's your relativity, right? That you feel it at that, okay? And without it, you couldn't exist, right? And like I said, without pressure, you can't have liquid water.
Yeah.
You can't have a volume of any fluid without a container. And fluids, of course, as everyone knows, incorporate both liquids and gases.
Right.
And these people, this guy, he actually said, why doesn't the ocean equalize with the air above it? And I'm like, are you retarded? What do you mean? Are you really asking me why does the ocean not jump up out of the basin that it's in?
Yeah, it's like a bowl of cereal flying out of the bowl without any kind of movement.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. And it's like, wait a second. Oftentimes you can use water as containment for something as well, like a bubble of air. is contained in water, but it's a containment that's holding it, that pressure of itself against the relative medium until it finds its relative medium and goes poof and pops at the surface, if it ever can get there.
Right. That's the thing about the air balloons too, right? Like how they get the balloons up there, and oh man, I don't even want to talk about that one. That one gives me freaking heebie-jeebies.
My wife, Naughty Hippo, just came back from the Adirondack Balloon Festival in New York State. And I will have to get it over onto this computer from my phone. I haven't done any of that yet. I don't have any stuff on these computers except for what I'm running right now.
Right.
And of
It's so
course,
funny because I wanted to tell my girlfriend and I wasn't able to tell her, but you look like you're sitting in a freaking astronaut ship, like a spaceship, a rocket ship.
this is the International Fake Station.
Are you serious? Is that
Yeah.
like a green screen of the International Space
Hey, what's up, Brody?
What's going on, man?
Hey, Fat Sonny.
Brody, love you, buddy.
Really? All right, bro.
Hey,
Hang on.
NASA is real, by the way, so don't tell people it's not.
Okay. Look, I'm going to prove it.
NASA is real, and it was founded by a Nazi, Werner von Braun, in Operation Paperclip.
I'm going to prove.
Yeah, but we turned it good.
I'm going to prove to you that this thing is real. Okay. All right. So we have a camera set up in the cupola. All right. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to leave here. You'll hear the
Don't
airline.
pass in front of that camera again.
You watch what's going to happen. I'm going over the
You said
cupola.
make sure you don't pass in front of the camera.
I'm going to turn on the cupola right here, right now. All right. So I'll be back in just a minute. That's the airlock.
Whoa,
What
dude.
the hell is this dude
Oh my
doing?
God, this is kind of random, but I just realized this because my girlfriend asked what your name was, and I said Dave. My dad's name was Dave too, and he passed away like 2 weeks ago. That's kind of crazy, man.
Here we go.
Kind of crazy.
So now I'm over into the cupola right now, and I was floating over here in the zero
Oh my God,
environment, and I ended up catching my foot on one of these fucking cables that sticks out all over the place. We really need to get an IT guy up here, undocumented. See if you can get a hold of these bozos up here, and maybe they can get you a gig fixing this shit and get it back to the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to go back to the control center now because that's where my weed's at.
I love that Confederate hat, dude. Riding at pride, baby.
Why you thinking that, boy?
It's great, man. I'm a huge historian buff, a big patriot, and I think it's rather rude that statues are being taken down. I think we should respect history, you know.
So there's
I'm
proof.
hoping
Hey, everybody on this panel represents the red. We're all Republicans here. We represent Donald.
Oh, I'm not a Republican, dude.
Listen, I'll tell you this. Yeah, I'm right with Dave there, which I don't know if you heard, Dave. My girlfriend was asking your name. My dad's name was Dave too, and he passed away 2 weeks ago. So it's kind of crazy.
Hear that, man.
I just met you like a month ago, so it's kind of weird that it's fine. You know, I was sad about it, but R.I.P. to hardworking conservative men. Ain't that right, Fat Sonny? But
you know what's right? You call yourself a Leviathan, but you can get your hands. You might call yourself a devil, but you ain't on my level. I'm the truest MC.
The two-party system.
I'll mess up your faces, your family, your races.
He's rapping. Yeah. The two-party system is really flawed. And I think anyone who's willing to say they're Democratic or Republican at this point, they're just not, up to
paying attention, bro. They're not paying attention. Listen.
Guns up, guns up.
If people can't step back and see this goddamn thing for the show that it really is.
Yeah.
Okay. Look, this is all a big act. Okay. What they're going to do is they're going to come in, and they're already setting it up because they set it up with this whole Biden cheated the election, blah, 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 blah. They put on a hell of a good show. All right. But that's part of it. Because what they're going to have happen now is because Mr. Warp Speed is going to come riding in like a knight in shining armor, like the fucking cavalry. And he's going to make things right. You know what? People are going to be so goddamn happy about it. They're going to go along with whatever he does.
Yeah.
And
which is okay.
no,
But
it's
what, I mean, like, but, okay, here's my thing with
Look
that. Like,
into my eyes. It's
you know,
okay, Dave.
I'll tell you this right now. Here's
Donald
the thing with
Trump's
that.
cool.
I feel like it would be great if all this stuff, like on that first layer of the onion shit happened. He came back and saved the country, QAnon, all that JFK Jr.'s alive shit, whatever, right? But what I'm saying is, like, it's just kind of crazy that, you know, they got it to the point where he's indicted in all these states. They're trying to use the 14th Amendment against him so he can't run again. And if he does run again, he'll probably win because of the way everything is. It's just, how is it that the first 4 years this man was in charge, people don't realize things fucking didn't get fixed? Like, we literally had a bunch of people get arrested for all the shit on January 6th that didn't do anything but show up.
I
And they're
know.
going to prison for years. So,
Right.
like, what
Yeah.
the fuck, man? How are you going to
Of the show.
you know, if you understand Freemasons are a thing and the Jesuits are a thing and all this shit is real, how are you going to put your faith in a man that you already put your faith in and it didn't work out the first time? You know, and a lot of people are saying, well, he didn't know, he was a rookie in the game, and you know, and I'm just like, I don't know.
Listen, I ran into this lady. I was talking to this lady at the grocery store today, and of course, everyone has noticed that the prices are ungodly high, right? And she was like, I can't believe these prices. And I said, well, you know what caused that, don't you?
So much.
And she said,
Right.
yeah, Joe Biden caused that. And I said, no, you caused that by voting.
It's hilarious. It's true, but it's
She
hilarious.
looked at me really funny. I said, don't you realize how immoral of an act voting really is? You are seeking to make other people impose to your will when they would rather not.
All right.
Okay. And just like believing that it's a globe because everybody else does, okay, does not make it so.
Think of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going with the flow is never the way to go, man. You know what goes with the flow? Dead fish go with the flow.
Ooh, that's deep. Sheep go with the flow too, right? Or,
Yeah, always. Yeah. They're just looking at the asshole of the one in front of them. That's all they do.
You ever seen that picture? I don't know who created it. It was like cartoonist, but it's such a deep picture, man. It's all these all these sheep being led off a cliff by a farmer or sheep herder. And one of the black sheep, there's like one black sheep amongst all the white sheep, and it's trying to go the other direction. And they're like all going off the cliff, and it's trying to go the other. You ever seen that? It's like a pretty famous picture.
Which is it? Say it again.
It's essentially an animation of a herd of sheep being led off of a cliff, high moonbounds, and one black sheep is trying to go the opposite direction, which is back to land, and
Right.
the rest of the herd's going off the cliff, and the picture essentially is, you know, saying don't follow the herd just because that's the reason.
I've seen that same type of thing, except they're
Right.
going, they're like the other sheep are going, oh, conspiracy theorists.
Right.
No, man, you're headed off a cliff. Oh, tinfoil hat, conspiracy theorists, malcontent. Fucking bullshit, man. That's the one tool they rely on is ridicule, right? And you get a hold of somebody like me. I'm a Sigma male, okay? I don't fucking care.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's where I'm at. I don't care. You can go ahead and do that. When I see bullshit, I'm going to call out bullshit, and it don't matter what the consequences. And often that ends up putting me in dangerous positions, like, you know, getting in fights, defending some kid that somebody else is fucking with, you know, that kind of shit. Sometimes didn't always go well for me, right? How you doing tonight, Moonbounce? What's happening? I see you're out walking the pooch.
Yeah. I guess that's better than screwing the pooch.
Yeah, well, yeah, you're not supposed to do that unless you're a cop. Did you see that video that was out a while back about that cop? He'd actually admitted to having sex with a dog and shit, and they still hired him.
I missed that.
Oh yeah, man, they got some real winners in that crew. Tucker is a liar. Who are you talking about? What's he talking about? Tucker who? Tuck is Johnson? Is that what you're talking about? Who's talking about this? Because news reports doesn't make it true. Obama signed an executive.
I think he's talking about Tucker Carlson, the
Yeah,
guy that
that's
got fired from Fox News and recently interviewed Trump on Twitter or whatever.
Dude, he's got so much viewership. It's sickening. People in other countries are watching Tucker Carlson now that didn't have access to him before.
Well, that's what I'm saying, Dave. It's like the first layer of the onion. If you follow that first layer of the onion, you're on the Trump wagon. You're on the Tucker Carlson wagon. You're on the Elon Musk wagon. You're on the, the conservative Republican wagon. Whatever. I get it, but it's like it's jujitsu. There's levels. There's belts to this shit. And if you're a black belt and being the student of truth, this shit is so stupid.
Dude,
It's hard to believe in any of it.
It's a Russian nesting doll of deceit, man. It's the layer upon layer, like you say, like an onion. It's layer upon layer upon layer upon layer. And when you get right down to it and find out that it's like it's all just a big pile of shit to cover up reality. And when you figure out what reality actually is, you kind of looks like we lost Moon Bounce. He locked up for a minute, and I'm sure he'll be back. Hopefully.
Yeah, he was walking around. I think he might be losing connection.
Easy enough to do. But yeah, this is if you're the Tucker Carlson's gonna say, listen, you have to understand all of this. And this is why they mediate fucking YouTube so heavily.
Right.
Because they can't have anybody that goes off script. They can't have anybody go off script. This has all been studied. The social media, the YouTube and video platforms have all been factored into their Tavistock studies on how to fucking manipulate your mind. Okay?
Wow.
They're gauging you in real time as you watch this shit by taking measurements of your attention through your irises. And
Dave, you said Tavistock multiple times, and I know I interrupt you a lot, man, but it's just you just saying things that blow me away. You got to hear this. So, I am living physical evidence because people will be like, "Oh, everyone says Tavistock. Yeah, I don't know anything about that. It's just conspiracy hogwash, like the Cambridge bullshit, over there that was going on with the Russian election." But I'm telling you right now, when I was like 16, 17, maybe 15 too, there was this online website. I don't even know what the fuck it was called. It was like something God chat. And it was the only thing online. At the time, YouTube wasn't even on the level it is right now, folks. I mean, this was like, we were just getting to broadband DSL modem type shit, right? And this fucking website would allow you to go on there and press a button on the keyboard and talk to people. And there would be people from all over the world. And it would like have these little chat rooms. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but like after the Patriot Act, and a lot of the censorship during COVID, all these chat room kind of environments online where you could just talk to each other and transfer information started to disappear. And it was like a few years before that website went down, and the owner of that website was arrested in England, and he was an employee of the Tavistock shit. I swear to God, dude. I used to go on that website like all the time just to talk to people about conspiracies and shit. It was so fucking crazy. And I was like, what? Like this guy works for a spy, like an intelligence espionage company in England, and he's in jail now, and I was on his website every day.
Yeah, listen, this is the shit right here. There's a whole bunch of shit about the Tavistock Institute right here, just in this one. But you can go in a browser and search it, and it's a real thing. So I don't understand why people are going, "Oh, that doesn't exist. That's a conspiracy theory." There, the fuck it is,
right?
And it everything they do. Christ almighty, man. This is the thing. And people think that by saying, no, you're lying, it's not true. It reminds me of a little kid, right? That covers up his eyes and then thinks that nobody can see him now. Right? That's the same logic involved right there.
Right.
Right.
It's like that wrestler guy that runs his hand in front of his face real quick a couple times.
Oh, John Cena?
Yeah. Holy God. Do you remember an old show called Soap, Moondog? It was an old TV show called Soap. It was like in the early 80s, late 70s. And it was like a satirical soap opera. And this guy on there thought that he could turn invisible. He was like mental and shit. And he thought he could turn invisible just by going like this. And he's like, then he actually really thought he was invisible and nobody could see him, but everybody could, of course, still fucking see him, you know? Another interesting thing on that too, that on that show was they had one of the characters, there was Chuck and Bob, and it was a guy with a ventriloquist dummy, right? And the ventriloquist dummy was the only one that ever talked. But it was the guy making him say the horrible things that he was making. And all the time people were trying to hurt the doll. And they'll do that in real life. You see, you could take a ventriloquist dummy and a ventriloquist is really good and have that ventriloquist.
Well, that's, you know, that's the thing with the
dummy. They will. They'll get mad at the dummy.
That's the thing with American culture. We don't understand that we are an engineered cauldron of labor workers for the elite of this world, and that's why our economy and our military has become what it has in just short of 300 years, because we don't get these things you just said. Like, if you go back to where my family's from in India, or you go to like Mexico, or you go to Africa, or you go to freaking even like parts of Europe, like, you know, where there's old culture embedded, like Sweden, Norway, the Viking lands, you know, they know this shit's real. The hoodoo, the voodoo, the judo, the voodoo, you know, it's all real, man. The supernatural, like, it's not a thing for them. But here in America, it's like a hobby, like the paranormal.
Yeah.
It's a hobby,
I'm so cool because Madonna does it. You know, God damn, I know, and they don't even know what the hell they're even getting into with that shit. But this whole manipulation. Now, like like I was saying, those people in that show, and this happens in real life, they get so mad at the ventriloquist dummy, and they're not really even taking into consideration it's the dude controlling the puppet that's actually saying it. But they get mad at the puppet because they see the dummy say it. They don't see the other guy say it.
right.
Now imagine being a ventriloquist of sorts for a puppet like, a president or a prime minister or a senator or a pope or whatever else. And you think that if I can think of that, surely they've thought about it. And of course, that's what they do on a daily basis, man. Every one of these figures that you see is that puppet for you to get mad at or fall in love with based on your perception. The people controlling the puppet remain unscathed. They're in the shadows. You're never going to know who they are. As far as you know, it's some janitor in a basement of a school named Pedro or some shit, right? You never could, you don't know, right? It'd be like the Satan would be the most, if it had a human incarnation, would be the most unlikely person you would think to be that, because after all, isn't he?
Oh my God! Have you seen The Consultant on Amazon Prime? I mean, there's so many TV shows and movies about the devil, but it's like one of the more recent ones with Christoph Waltz. Oh my God! Yeah, you're definitely the type of guy that probably doesn't waste time watching TV. But you know, I freaking live in Cali, so in LA, it's a thing. Yeah, I watch TVs and movies. But there's this show called The Consultant on Amazon Prime, and it's like 9 episodes, and it's about this guy that shows up to a company after the CEO has just been like killed in this really tragic incident way before they should die, you know, like in their 30s or 20s.
Lisa, we're going to get back onto pressure here in just a minute. I thought everybody.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right.
That's my fault. That's actually.
That's all right.
That's my fault.
I thought everybody was under the understanding. Do you have, Lisa? Do you have questions about pressure and how it's created and why we have it? If so,
She just created some.
Right. So a good movie for you. A good movie for you to check out. I think you'd like it.
Yeah.
And it kind of pertains to the influence of evil forces on the music industry. It's a movie called American Satan. Go on YouTube and type that in, and you can watch the trailer for it. It's pretty damn good. It's an adaptation of the story of Faust, who sold his soul to the devil. Okay.
Yeah, I know all about that. Yeah, I know about Robert Johnson. Yeah,
Okay.
this show's crazy because basically what it is this guy shows up, takes over a company after the owner dies, like in a weird way because they sold their soul to the devil. And he has these doctors over years pay a jeweler to create like each piece of a human skeleton with gold. And then that's you were talking about the incarnation of the devil, and that's why it popped into my head. The final episode, they find out the fucking employees of this creepy boss who's the devil that he's made out of like gold skeletons. Like,
Oh my God.
yeah, it's crazy. Like that's how he
Great.
can, because he can't possess a human being, but obviously he can. It's
You have bladder pressure, Lisa, because the bladder is containing an excessive amount of fluid, right? Because the bladder is what, everybody? Containment. Containment. I can't believe I actually had to iterate what containment was. Did you see my video? I had to do one on what the difference between a container and a containment,
See,
how they.
this is the kind of stuff that fucks with me, Dave. Like in regards to the pressure thing, you know, like I got stuff like this just saved to like show people. Like I'm not, on any side of the argument, but isn't this kind of funny? Like
Well, you
this meme
should
right
be
here. You see
asking
it?
questions. That's the whole thing. There shouldn't be really an argument. You should be weighing out different things. You should be weighing out the different possibilities that are put toward you. But I actually had to make this video because people are just too damned pedantic, uh, driven people,
Mhm.
and it's like, wait a second, this is not going to do anything for you. So check this out. I did this for anybody that didn't see it before. And then I don't want anybody to ask me a question again about what constitutes a container. Okay. Because this is getting ridiculous. I had somebody tell me that because a toilet didn't have a lid on it, it wasn't a container. And I'm like, you got to be goddamn shitting me, man. Please. Hello, everybody. Summer Soul Unchained Mind here. Recently, it's come to my attention that there is quite a bit of confusion over what is the meaning of the word containment. Containment is the act that is provided for by a container. Does a container have to be fully enclosed? No, not at all. We can contain oil drips with a pan, which is a type of containment. We can put eggs in a basket, which is a kind of containment. Is it sealed? No. Is something that is hermetically sealed, is that containment? Yes, that also is containment. A chain link fence is containment. Okay. In fact, I, sitting right here, am a series of containers within a container that is contained in our world. Containment is nothing more than the act of containing something. Now, does this mean all containment is suitable for the same applications? Absolutely not. So when I tell the globetard that you cannot have a fluid pressure without containment, in fact, you can't have a vacuum without containment. Okay? What am I telling you? Okay, so I have some idiot tell me swing a bucket around. What does that do? Oh, well, the air pressure in the bottom of the bucket is now more than what it was. Yeah, it's in a container. It's a bucket. I had some fool show me a hot air balloon and says, look, that's open on the bottom. How's that containment? Holy Jesus Christ, man. Really? And then he asked me if I could put 30 pounds per square inch of air in a glass. And I'm like, that's not proper containment for the application prescribed. These are supposedly educated people, but they can't think. They have absolutely no way of thinking. or extrapolating an idea in any way, shape, or form unless you actually lead them through the stretch. My next video is going to be exactly about that, relating to an experience that I had today. So just keep in mind, a container, whether it be a chain link fenced in yard or a hermetically sealed jar or a basket or anything like that, is a container. The act of containment is containing something within containment. I can't believe that here we are in the 21st century and I have to explain this shit to people. Okay. So M-Ball, please pay attention. Really, I urge you, please pay attention. Thought process operates, but you need help. Okay. So once again, containers contain things. Are all containers the same? No. Different containers for different applications of containment. So I hope that sets everything clear. I hope y'all get it. Most of you do, but some of you, go outside and wait for the short bus. That's all I can tell you. So,
Oh my God, sorry.
I'd like to say, Lord loves a working man. Don't trust Whitey. See your doctor and fire his ass. He'll probably kill you. So, until next time. So that ought to lay aside anything that people could be having any questions about on that. Okay. So I've even come to the supposition, and I'm still exploring it, but I believe that in order for any matter to exist, there must be pressure. I mean, it seems fundamental. It really does, because when you start exploring down this avenue of thought, you start coming to some really startling conclusions. Forget that bullshit about some jawbreaker Earth with molten shit in the middle flowing around, or whatever the fuck, making electromagnetics, blah, 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 blah. All this dumb shit, mental gymnastics based around assumptive hypothesis, treated as fact, has limited people's ability to think beyond that, because they've been beaten to death with that whole goddamn idea. And then some dumbass in the sheep crowd, when you say, no, gravity's not what you say, man, this downward vector is something different. Oh, you don't think so? Jump off a house. I'm like, yeah, jump off a house. Jump off a house into a pool. What happens now, dumbass? Right? I mean, come on. Last time they had a brain fart, the brain went too. Yeah, I think a lot of times that's it. And these people are just so stuck on this goddamn gravity thing that I don't even know what to tell them. It's like, wait a second. You keep describing an effect. I don't care if you put a G in your formula. Use a Z. I don't give a fuck. As long as that variable is denoting the downward vector in association with the weight of the object, I don't give a shit. Of course, you can predict things. You can predict a rate of fall. You can use that for a rate of fall in maple syrup if you know the fucking medium. But you don't, because you never bothered to look at it. All you're dealing with is the medium where you're at. It'd be like a snail down on the bottom of the fucking ocean saying there's a giant suction cup that holds the water to us. I mean, holy cow, got just as much proof. That's what I don't understand. So, Lisa, what else did you have questions on the ball or on the pressure? Here's Singh has joined us, and Moonbounce hasn't had much to say yet.
Hello.
I'll let you
I'd like
guys.
to add something short and quick to what you
Yeah,
just stated. You're bang on about pressure, but we can take it a stage further from pressure. It said increase in the frequency field, and you are right. Everything has a containment field designed by laws of physics that cannot be changed. A containment field. Some people define it. God did this. Always call God the primary creator source. So, in actual fact, one can change their own pressure, and one can actually, once they get to a certain level of consciousness, is actually they can start playing around with the molecules around their field too, and actually be changing their weight, known as density frequency increase. So what you're defining about that is, yeah, there is no such thing as gravity, and we can even take it a stage further than pressure. It's actually a frequency increase field to the actual molecules of existence. And you're right, everything does have a containment field. You do, I do, as our containers are our bodies, and we can work with that. But yeah, you're bang on with that, Sovereign. There is no such thing as gravity. Magnetism, the only thing that exists as magnetism is the artificial laws they're introducing through all the Wi-Fi signals. I've come to conclusion through doing studies lately. It's the artificial magnetism that would be mimicking gravity that doesn't even exist, okay, would be the amplification of what they do sometimes to the cell emissions, all governed by CERN, HARP, and cell towers. So you're bang on, all derived going back to the core quantum computers that are regulating all this.
Who are we containing? Yabba dabba doo. I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying, Sing. That's you're right on the right track with a lot of this, man. This whole idea and this that they, I just can't believe what they call mockery. You know what they actually try to mock. I want to go. Oh, Lisa asked, "Did I hit my head?" No, Lisa. It's actually coming into fall time, and that's my antlers coming out, babe. So
Lisa, you should come on. It's it's funny. It's like always people in the chat that are on the other side.
no, they never will come on, man.
People need to take it to the next stage of their ascension, get over their stage fright, and come up here and just, they got a lot of builds, awesome information in the comments, and a lot of people don't realize they have so much to contribute, no matter what they think they know or don't know. Once you come up here, just things change.
Exactly, and always realize this, man. Okay, your rebuttals and my rebuttals are not to change your mind, because you've already come up here with your mind made up. Okay.
Exactly.
So I'm not trying to change your mind. Where the benefit lies is people that are watching the broadcast now and the people that are watching the broadcast later, because they get to see both sides of the issue presented in a cohesive manner to where they can formulate their own opinion. I have no hope of it, bring somebody on here that's a baller and turning them into a flat earther at all. That's not what I do. I don't give a shit.
I thought you were going to turn him
made up, right?
I thought you were going to turn him into a different baller. You're going to put him on the street.
Yeah.
You're pimping out some
bottom bitch now, right? Shit. No,
balling
like that. But I mean, that's the whole thing. So it's like when I have someone, like, for instance, when Red's Rhetoric was on, right? I know I don't think he really believes the nonsense that he preaches. He's too smart. I do believe, though, that he is engaging in a deceptive practice by knowing better and still providing this horse shit. And so when I'm listening to what he's saying, I'm looking for the supposed and assumptive uses, right, of formulas or conditions or things like that. I'm always looking to the assumptions. And they're so easy to pick out when you realize that their whole line of assumptive thinking is this: I see these things in the sky through my telescope. I assume that they're orbs of terra firma. And so therefore I assume that I am on one of these orbs of terra firma. I'm also going to assume that these things are orbiting a giant ball of burning gas called the sun. All right, you see where the assumptions are already at. This is how many assumptions we already have. So you look into the sky and you see birds fly over and you go, oh, well, I'm a biological creature. Those are biological creatures. And so therefore I must be a bird. That's the same fucking logic that's involved with that whole thing. And so, like I said before, we have to establish what medium, before you can use any of the shit in the sky, we have to establish the medium in which they reside and what they are. And the only way we're going to establish what medium that those things are in is by actually checking that medium ourselves. Now, how can anyone have checked that medium if they can't get through the containment of the fluid pressure system we live in? Globe over, baby. Globe over. It's that simple. I don't even have to worry, because now what we have to do is we have to discover what is this barrier made of and what lies beyond it, if anything. Is the medium that we're seeing actually within this barrier itself? I mean, we often depict, by saying that through the scripture, right? It says that he placed these luminaries, the stars, within the firmament, right? So what exactly does that mean? And he also says like molten glass. Well, what else is like molten glass? It doesn't necessarily have to be red hot to be molten. Molten just refers to a liquid state. So what would be like liquid glass? I don't know. Water?
Exactly.
Heavy water, perhaps? I don't know. I've not been there to check it, but when the rockets scrape against it, they sure as hell look like a speedboat going across the water when you look down at them from the air. Plus, we look at stars and shit through it, and they actually look like they're in some kind of a liquid medium. All right, so I'm just suppositing, right? I'm just, spitballing here. So we also don't know what the thickness of this barrier is, do we? We assume it's like a window. A lot of flat earthers do, that it would be like a window looking out into space or something like that. But what if the firmament itself is space? And this firmament that is containing us is actually maybe a few hundred miles thick. Who the fuck knows? But none of this is only supposition unless somebody can actually go and check. And those that have gone and checked, because we know that they've scraped it, stop lying to us. That's the only way. So we've got to get around and get repealed at least any of these goddamn am I froze up, y'all?
No, you're good, man.
No, you're good, brother. You're good. We're just listening to you without interrupting you,
Oh, yeah. Well, I looked over here at the other monitor, and I have this way of I can stay still for so long that, when I'm in a train of thought, that you can't really, I can't tell if I froze up or not.
That's because you're so powerful. You're Mandela affecting it by looking at it. You're messing with its molecules. You're scaring it. You're scaring it. It's freezing still because you're scaring your double copy.
Right. So yeah, man. But so we have to determine that. And this would also, if let's just suppose there is a curved lens upon us, and that could take various shapes of a curved type of dome. Everything from a crock pot lid down up to a bubblegum machine dome, right? So we have to get some sizes and shit. We don't know any of this because we're not allowed to go and check anywhere. Now, if it was a medium of liquid, and these stars are in that medium of liquid, wouldn't that give a distorted view of them as you moved along? Right? Maybe not a whole lot, but enough to account refractorily for the aberration we see between the 45th parallel and the equator. Right? Because you should be seeing it at 26 or 26 and a half degrees or whatever, if you double the length of the base. But it's as reported, and I've not ever witnessed this myself because I've never gone to the equator and looked at Polaris. But Supposedly it's at 0 degrees or not visible at all. Now, whether that's because of atmospheric opacity, or if it's due to a distortion in the medium between us and the star, I don't know. But I certainly know that you can't transpose that type of a curve and say, oh, that proves that the surface of the Earth is curved. It doesn't.
It
Optics
doesn't.
and water, like I've said before, water does lie. But when it lies level and flat. Okay?
Yeah, and this remind me of somebody who's defined what they put a spoon into the water. If you can see how it changes the angle of the spoon too, it bends whatever you put in there. So
That's right.
yeah, it is a liar. It warps
It is.
perception.
It's a liar, but when it lies flat.
Yeah.
Because that refractory thing. So that's why I did that other short video, Consider the Medium, because we are taking for granted their idea that there's a vacuum, which is impossible without a container. So I don't know, man. I'm thinking probably more like water. I think they know that. I think at higher levels they know that. That's one of the reasons every one of your Star Trek type shows or movies, everybody on there, including the names of the ships, have nautical names and ranks. Captains, admirals, lieutenants, yeomen, crewmen.
What?
Right?
Shut up, dude. You're fucking blowing my mind tonight, dude. What the fuck is going? The first one I thought it was the Matrix. Remember the Nebuchadnezzar?
Right? Oh, that
Oh
did change.
my God.
Isn't it Nebuchadnezzar's name that's changed in the Bible now?
Yeah. Yeah, he's the king
Yeah,
of
that's
Emperor of
sweet.
Babylon or king or whatever. I don't fucking
And
know.
I know that fucking changed because that took me a long time sounding out his name. No one told me what that word was because I remember when I ran across it as a kid, I asked and my mother says, I'm not going to tell you, sound it out. She would always make me do that. She'd make me sound it out. I'd ask, what's this word? And she'd go, sound it out. And she'd be there. If I fucked up, she'd go, no, wait a second. That makes what sound? She'd make me work it out. And I remember Nebuchadnezzar, and now it's some other bullshit that doesn't say Nebuchadnezzar anymore, man. That's a mind blower for me.
Right. Yeah.
So that's just some craziness, man. We lost moon bounce.
Yeah, man. That's
range.
one reason I'm staying on so long today. I told my girl last time, I was like, I get off too early. Like all these people join towards the end. I gotta stay on this time. And she was like, fine.
Yeah, we're liable to have a few. We're liable to have a few more. Oh,
Yeah.
we're liable to. We usually do.
It's always good. It gets interesting here.
Maybe Sean Hawkins will come back and try to tell me that the word atmos doesn't mean gases. It means air. And
the one guy that trips me out, I can't tell if he's a flat earther or a glober, is remember that when I first came onto your stream, Sovereign? The bald guy from Australia? He's like me, but white, no beard.
Ruhiv.
Yeah, Roofy. Yeah, Roofy. Yeah.
Ruhiv. He might be out there tonight. I don't know. I don't know what's going on over in his part of the world. Cornbread are square. That's right. Pie are round. Cornbread are square. I remember that one. ZXL Master. I'm a master of dad jokes myself. I love that, man. I love that. Here's a good one for y'all. This is just kind of funny. You guys know what gay horses eat? Hey.
Oh my God.
Oh no, I heard that. It just cracked me up so bad. I was like, yeah, roofie. That's right, Lisa.
Okay.
Nebuchadnezzar. Yeah, look in and animate. That's what it's supposed to be. Now look in the Bible and see what it says about his name. What is that you're showing? Oh yeah, I know, right? I've got some on that. God, I can't wait to get my system back, but I don't know.
I got a bunch of these that crack me up.
What is that? Is that the two suns?
No, it says if the sun is 93 miles away, 93 million miles away, how old are the clouds behind it?
Well,
Yeah,
here's what I want to get. right? You think about how did the fuck did they ever determine that 93 million miles? You tell me how you're gonna get that distance at all.
I
I'm
remember
sorry,
that.
you're
I remember
not.
that. I remember that guest you had that was trying to relay that the information is correct, where you could do it with a picture. You could tell the miles and how far away an object is.
He's full of shit too, bro.
Yeah,
Look, here's the bottom line to it, right? Let's just suppose these sizes, distances, and speeds.
Mm-hmm.
If I reduced every one of those factors to 1/4 of what it is right now,
Mm-hmm.
you would never be the wiser of it. In other words, I take the speed of it down to 1/4, I take the size of it down to 1/4, and I bring its distance down to 1/4. This is how scale works. And they do it all the time in this really nifty thing called a planetarium,
Right.
which is where you go sit in a nice level room in some chairs, and they display the sky above you onto that dome. And I'll tell you what, you can lay back and listen and watch. And I've been in those things and looking up at those stars and shit in there and all their little movements that they do. And they were playing audio of crickets chirping. And you know what? It was just like being outside. You couldn't distinguish it at all. Just like the people in the Hunger Games could not distinguish that they were inside of a dome. It was all projected above them.
That shit reminds me of the Truman Show with Jim Carrey. That movie is a trip, dude.
The True Man Show. What's in a word? The True Man Show. I mean, they threw it right in your damn face. Look at the whole thing. Who was there for his birth and watched over him the entire time? Christos, who was where? In the moon.
Right.
Right? The moon, who is always depicted as the fertility goddess. Right? Because it has the same menstrual cycle as a woman of 28 days.
And you know what cracks me up about that too is I got all these people telling me, "Hey man, you should be proud as a first generation American with family from India. We made it. You guys made it to the moon. We made it to the moon again." I'm like, "Oh, that is that." Now the Indians did it. The Indians did it, Dave. Thank you. Come again. Okay,
Hey,
buddy.
brother, it was all these good people's extended car warranties that paid for it.
Dude, it's just ridiculous, man. I saw this one meme saying that they used like a picture from 1969 of Earth in like pictures of the India moon landing. And it's stuff like that that messes with me. Is like it should be so easy to just shut somebody down when you say we have pictures of it, and the other person's like, "Well, it's all CGI. Show me a real one." Like, why are they always?
Look, man.
Always stumped. They're like, "Oh, well, the technology, the way it works is it's a million pictures forming one picture."
Yeah. It's an artist's interpretation of infrared data onto something what you would see if you could see it, if you could see infrared. I'm like, are you shitting me? What? I'm like, what are you doing, man? Come on. And this whole idea of oh my God, I know. I saw it on TV or whatever else. Look, it's this simple. And especially in this day and age. If space can be faked, and we know it can, you see the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock? Yeah. Oh my God, that's amazing. That's amazing. Right?
Yeah.
So if space can be faked, how in the fuck do you know it isn't being faked?
Well, that's the thing. It's like as someone who lives in freaking Hollywood, I went to the UCLA, so I've been here for a while now, and I'll tell you, there was a guy named Stanley Kubrick who had a movie called Eyes Wide Shut, which he's most renowned for with Tom Cruise, but he was also in charge, authorized by the United government United States government to create a fake moon landing mission kind of film in case we didn't do it, just so the Russians didn't beat us to it, right? That's what they tell us about Kubrick. And I always find that so ironic that this guy, you know, died very mysteriously, and one of his last movies, Eyes Wide Shut, had like 40 minutes of footage removed from it, which that movie was like, you know.
Artists always want at least some kind of recognition for their work. Now, in the movie Wag the Dog, this is exemplified very well by the character played by Dustin Hoffman.
Right.
And he was the guy that produced the illusion of America being at war in Albania.
Right.
For the purpose of this movie. And he wanted some kind of award or some kind of recognition. And De Niro tells him, no, you can never talk about this.
Right.
But it's so great. How can he's no, you can't. Well, Kubrick, in that same fashion, that pride, put clues to his involvement in all kinds of movies. Okay, including The Shining. There's a whole bunch of scenes that are a metaphor to him filming the moon landing. Okay, including little Danny getting up and going into the room 237 of the Overlook Hotel. Room 237 of the Overlook Hotel. 237,000 miles to the moon. And when Danny stands up off of the little tricycle, first he runs into the little girls, right? The twins, the creepy twins. The creepy twins represent the Gemini missions.
Right.
He stops in front of room 237 and he stands up and he is wearing a shirt with a rocket ship on it. And he stands up symbolizing that blast off and going into room 237. He put clues to his involvement and all that shit. And I think that's one of the reasons they kind of offed him. They kind of left him alone because it was very cryptic and a lot of people didn't get it. But he, I think, got a little too blatant with that thing. And like they say, space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Right?
Right.
Yeah, no shit.
That's the craziest thing ever, dude, is like the amount of lyrical evidence that exists among celebrity Hollywood insiders, artists, whatever, directors, producers of movies, TV shows, the amount of like written visual evidence that they've put forth for us to just see. You know, my dad would always tell me this thing. He recently passed away, and a lot of things he tells me, you know, obviously after he's gone now, ironically, I think about a lot of things he told me. He would always say the truth has to come to light. And the greatest, like the most powerful law that God has that, you know, cannot be tampered with is that the truth must come to light. You can't hide the truth. You have to bring it out. If you try to hide it, you're gonna get caught up. You have to lie once, lie a million more times to cover up that first lie. We've all heard it. But when you look at these people and what they do, whether it's like movies like They Live with Roddy Piper where he puts the glasses on, or just anything, the Super Bowl shows, whatever, like they put it all in front of you. It's hidden in plain sight. And people are so blind that it's like tomorrow, if we all find out one day and wake up, everything's a lie and we're being lied to. And it's not important to have a good credit score. It's important to love each other and be good people. It's like they're gonna say, "We always had it in your face." What do you mean? What is like we weren't hiding it from you? You know, it's like,
yeah, you fooled yourself. It's just like people assuming because they have something that has the word satellite on it. Okay, they automatically assume that means something up in outer space flying around because every time they've told you about satellite, they show you that imagery, right? But let's keep in mind that satellite is a very broad term. Okay. So those tower nodes that retransmit your cell signal and all that happy shit, right? Those are all satellites to a central node. You understand? Those are all satellites to a central node. Dish TV or satellite TV has retrans satellites on towers at various points around the land that are able to retransmit that signal, and you are able to pick it up with a large dish antenna.
Right.
Okay, that's not because there's some fucking thing up in space. And think about what a marksman you'd have to be with one of those dishes to be able to pinpoint a thing the size of maybe a Volkswagen that's going 17,000 miles an hour, or even if it's a geostationary one, right? Like they claim. Think about what pinpoint accuracy you'd have to hit a Volkswagen Beetle at 300 miles.
Shit.
Yeah, and spinning around the globe at 20,000 with multiple satellites crossing. How does that happen, right?
And none of them crash into each other or anything. It's just the dumbest shit in the world I ever heard.
Yeah, and I'll say this again. There's no satellites up there. Somebody showed me a picture with the fake CGI up there, the shuttle Columbia up there taking pictures of one satellite around the Earth, where there should be approximately 3,000 active satellites and probably about another 3,000 junk satellites that aren't working no more.
It's a joke.
Serious joke too.
The whole premise of that shit is just, it's laughable. And
the first time I was on here, Dave, I had asked this question, and I guess because Rubif was on, you guys were kind of in the middle of a, debate, and I know the narrative has to stay on what people are here to talk about,
right.
And so kind of what I was asking was put to the side that day. But I think this is a great time to ask because we're all kind of casually discussing things, and chat isn't too strict on us right now. How do you think it's non-disclosure agreements that is keeping all of these people involved in these industries shut up or unable to speak because they're afraid of losing their job and reputation, whatever, Because it's like you would think at least one fucking person would have had a moral compass,
They're ridiculed.
Right.
They're shadow banned. They're really not allowed to tell their truth. But nevertheless, some are held by the golden handcuff. That's what I call that, with I got to keep my job.
Right.
In the past, airline pilots were succumbed to that.
Yeah.
To be pointed at a satellite dish antennas are pointed south and up. Yeah.
Hey, Dave, I'll be right back, Dave. I got to take Athena out real quick. My dog. Right. Thank you, brother.
So yeah, there's the golden handcuff, and airline pilots were in years past heavily subjected to it. But in recent years, we've had a lot of pilots come out and say, no, it's flat, man. So we've got that aspect of it going on. But most of it is due to the spell. A lot of these people involved, they say there's thousands of people at NASA, right? And I understand. There are thousands of people that work at General Motors too, right? But does that mean any of them have any idea what's going on up at the top in headquarters, or how they came to a decision to make whatever it is they're going to make? No. All they know is that they're to take this part and put it here.
I know they have no idea that airbag is defective, and they know it at the top.
Right.
And these people are still putting it in the car because they have no clue that that's defective,
right,
and that they're playing a part in all the damage that that's going to cause. They have no clue.
Exactly. And I've had people say, well, my uncle or my dad worked on satellites and satellite components. And I'm like, did your dad ever go up with the fucking satellite into space? How do you know how does he know what happened to it once it left him? How does he know what happened to it? Because somebody said, oh, look, this means it's working. We got this ping here. We can tell you because look on this computer. So these people that are doing these launches, they're sitting there in front of computers. And they're watching a screen. And they're being fed data from the mission, exactly like they've done with simulations hundreds of times before. Only this time, they took away the word simulation. Saying, man, that's all the evidence they have that it actually took place too. So you realize that this does not take a large amount of people to do. Dr. Ake. I don't know if I would want a physician with the last name of Ake. I don't see where that would go. What do you got going on, Dr. Ake? Dr. Ake, you're muted, my man.
Hope it's not painful.
Okay, so
Hello?
yeah, there you go, bro. What's
Hello?
up?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you just fine there, buddy. You got it. Can you hear me?
Yeah. You're loud and clear.
I think
Over.
Dr. Ake might be the sprint guy. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? He'll work out his issues, I guess, and come back. Oh my God. Yeah, the Haas avocados. That's some crazy shit. Brian Stabley was telling some stuff about that on his show where involving where he works at. The guy was cutting up avocados and he hit him with that and kind of blew the guy's mind. Thought that was pretty cool.
You know, I heard somebody, I forget where I heard it from, but it was like, you know, what you were talking about earlier. It's like, you know, you can tell people that you're gay. You can tell people this, that. You can tell people your religion. But if you ever just try to tell somebody you believe in the flat earth or something, it's like, that's the one thing that get you slapped quicker and harder than anything else you could tell somebody almost. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're a criminal and just like you're that brain dead is why a lot of people too, because just that ridicule and stuff that comes from it.
It's an indication of how deep the programming is. And the response is an indication as to how important it is to the people that placed it there, because they train those people to react that way. You understand?
Who, me? I get it.
I'm saying it to everybody. But you see, you understand? That's part of the programming. Comes along with don't question it, ridicule anyone that doubts it.
I mean, yeah, because saying that you're a flat earther is almost worse now. You get more ridicule than if you said you were a Nazi or something.
Well, I've never really give a shit what anybody calls me.
What the hell did I just walk into?
There you are, Dr. Alki. I
heard
Ridicule,
Nazi
man. You
Dr.
walked
Ake.
into ridicule.
Dr. Ake looks laggy.
NASA launch control room.
There's
Where
a
you're
lot of
making
that.
assumptions. No, I've been down there to the good old Cape Canaveral and shit. As I said, bro, I used to be quite the NASA geek, my friend. I believed in the planets and possible life on these balls. And when they came up and said they found a new ball out there and it might have people on it and shit, oh, I was geeked. I was excited as you guys are. But then I grew up, see?
Yeah.
Shit.
That's so crazy, dude. So my jiu-jitsu master, Eddie Bravo, he's like semi-famous, but you know, I don't know if you know Joe Rogan. He's been on that podcast a few times, and he talked about the flat Earth, and he was just like you. He like was a super hard like Ancient Aliens,
Right.
like NASA loving dude.
Right.
And then freaking I don't know what happened. Like one of his students apparently who had studied engineering or something told him to look into it, and that's like his famous 3 words now. Look into it, but he's a full-fledged flat earther now. Like there's no turning him away from it. It's like he knows it's all bullshit now.
Mm-hmm. Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, Eddie Bravo. Yeah.
That dude. That's why you don't see him and Rogan doing a lot together.
Yeah,
You think
it's kind of awkward because you know, like when at the camp where I go train on Pico Boulevard in downtown Los Angeles, like he doesn't say much other than just what we're training, some tips and stuff. You see him rolling. He's very shy and quiet. But then on the podcast, he's so outspoken and like, they have a few drinks. And you're right. Like, it's kind of crazy. Like, he's never been back on that podcast. And clearly they're still
Rogan took the ticket, bro. Rogan took the ticket.
What?
Yeah, listen, bro. Okay, so he was on board, right? He had pretty much figured it too. And then all of a sudden, he reversed and he got a fucking podcast and a big contract and all kinds of other shit. Dude, he's all in now, right? He don't
remember that CIA guy came onto his podcast one time? You think that's when it happened? The CIA went and started going onto his podcast.
Doesn't even take that. All it takes is the right offer, and everybody's got a price.
Right.
All right. Especially in offer you can't refuse, right? Hey, we'll tell you what, we'll give you a $5 million podcast, right? We'll promote all your shit, and we won't kill your family. How's that sound to you?
Doesn't really seem like an offer. It seems like a no choice kind of thing.
Well, hey.
It's an offer you can't refuse.
Right. Yeah. Some Godfather shit.
Yeah.
I come from mafia area. I know how the fuck they work, man.
Oh, man. I was so obsessed with the La Cosa Nostra when I was a kid, being born and raised in New York. I was so obsessed with them. My dad was a limo cab driver, like a short cab, So he'd pick up a lot of like lawyers from the courthouse, take them to the firm, take them back to their homeland, and lived in Connecticut. And he would see like at least once or twice a year John Gotti like leaving the courthouse with press swarming him. Like that was like crazy.
Remember Dr. Kevorkian?
Oh yeah, isn't that the guy that helped people die?
Yeah. He was my upstairs neighbor, man.
Shut the fuck up.
When I was getting divorced from my first wife, I was at the Oakland County Courthouse, and I had a really cool conversation with this lawyer who was getting kind of famous at the time, Jeffrey Feiger. You remember that dude?
Yeah.
Now, in the office right below my office in another company was John Scheck. He's the brother of Barry Scheck, who was on the OJ defense team.
Right. Yeah, Barry Scheck, he was the guy that got the photogenic prints and then the audio tapes from the racist cop that said the N-word a bunch of times. Yeah, Barry Scheck, yeah. Right, and then Robert Kardashian, Kim Kardashian's dad. He was on that shit too. He was a real estate attorney and just OJ's friend, but didn't know what he was doing, but they just put him on the team anyway.
Well, that's the whole thing. He was a meal ticket for those Kardashians, got the family enough more fame that they was able to weasel their way into the entertainment industry, and poor old Robert's out the door there, see? So,
hello?
Yeah, there we go. We got you back, Dr. 8. What's on your mind, brother?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Yep.
Yeah, do you want me to tell you who I am, or what do you want to, or can I just go and ask a real difficult question?
I don't care. Do whatever. It's mic's yours, man.
Well, I live in the far southwest corner of Western Australia. Okay. And now we're just on the equinox now, and here the sun. My building's orientated to the stars, and I've got big glass windows. Anyway, now the sun is coming up more or less due east, exactly to the east. And it's setting exactly to the west. And on my checking, it's doing exactly the same in the northern hemisphere. Yet, in the middle of summer here, the sun rises in the southeast and sets in the southwest.
Okay.
What do you mean? Okay, do you think I'm right, or do you understand what that means?
Hold on, wait a second. You watch the sun go down and you watch the sun rise, and you measure the direction that you saw both of these events in, right? Is that what you're telling me? Okay, cool.
Yes. And
Yeah.
it rises in the south. It rises in the southeast and sinks in the southwest in the middle of summer around Christmas time.
Yeah, it changes from me. I'm above the Tropic of Cancer, right? As is just everyone in the United States.
Yeah, but visualize it. How
I
can? Anyway, I thought I'd do some more research, and
Yeah.
you
I see the sun comes up for me at almost east by northeast. Okay?
Yeah, same here.
In that
Yeah,
direction.
I'm in California, same here.
It traverse the sky like this. Now in the summer, it's at a higher angle than, of course, it is in the wintertime. And it always sets right over here in the west by southwest
Right.
part of the horizon because of this arc that it's doing. It's arcing around me.
Yeah, in California, it looks like it sets to the north, but that's just because of where we are.
It's never going to zenith. It's never going to zenith any higher than any of the two tropics. So once you're on either side of those tropics, so for instance, if you're outside of the tropics completely, now the sun is doing a totally different type of arc than you would see.
I can't
because you have to actually look kind of north actually to see if you're below the tropic. Okay, if you're below the tropic, you're going to have to look north in a northerly direction anytime, whether it be northeast, east by northeast, or west by what am I fucking saying? Northwest. That's the only way that you're going to be. That's where you're going to see it both rise and set. It's going to be ant-arcing and not arcing around you. It's doing the opposite effect of that. And so if you're below the Tropic of Cancer, you have to look north to see the sun, the same way I have to look in a southerly direction, incorporating east and west in order to view the sun from where I'm at.
That's why they call Australia the down under.
The down under.
The down under.
The upside down. That guy right now, if he's in Australia, that means if we were on a globe, that means that he's completely antipodal to us.
Right.
Which is, wow. Come on, man.
I have family.
Are you still there?
I have family in Brisbane and Sydney and Auckland, New Zealand, and it's like a 36-hour flight, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking longest flight we can take.
God, yeah, I would imagine.
Anyway, I've been doing a lot more research, and my signals here come. I've got a satellite dish on my roof, and it's pointing north by northeast, right?
Oh shit!
And
It's roofing.
pointing on. It's pointing on an angle.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dr. A.
And it's elevated.
Who's breathing through a respirator?
Oh no, that's my microphone.
Oh, this is a share screen. Okay, we'll wait.
What's up, Ruben?
So anyway, Dr. A, go ahead. Yeah, that's interesting. Those observations. Another thing we have to consider too is we don't know what the sun is. They give us an answer, but you have to go, well, how do you fucking know that? Which they don't. Another thing that I have to really point out glaringly is that using things in the sky to determine the condition of where you're viewing those things from makes as much sense as me checking to see if my toilet's been flushed by seeing if my neighbor got mail. They're not related, especially when we're not even sure what it is we're looking at, or if you and I are actually seeing the exact same thing. You understand? It's really hard to pinpoint this point of light, especially from two observers. So you had something else, Dr. A? Go ahead.
Yeah. Let me expand because I did a lot more research. So these satellite dishes are pointing to somewhere in the sky. Okay.
Right. Strongest point of signal
A
scatter.
fixed point.
Strongest
Hey,
point of
and
signal scatter.
my dish has to be exactly aligned. If I move it a little tiny bit, I won't get signal. And if you live further to the west of me, you have to be pointing a little bit further back to the east. And if you're further to the east of me, you have to point a little bit back to the west. And you can go online to these companies that provide this satellite service, and they'll tell you what elevation and direction you have to point your satellite dish at to receive the signal. Anyway, I did some research. The signal, say for the evening news, on TV, the signal comes from a studio in Melbourne, and on checking where the signal goes from there, it's on a microwave link from there to a mountain in New Guinea, to the top of a mountain in New Guinea, and I can get a flat map and draw lines from these satellite dishes all across this country, and they all point to that same spot.
All right.
So what is there about 35 degrees above the horizon to my north? How is that pointing to New Guinea? Tell me that.
It's pointing to the
only way. It's pointing to
the strongest point of the signal scatter. You understand?
No, I don't.
Listen.
The signal is.
I'm going to tell you something. To think that you have a little dish and you have it pointed exactly at. Listen to me. Have it pointed exactly at an object the size of a refrigerator or a small SUV that's 300 miles or more away. In fact, that's only its elevation from the earth. If you're pointing at it from an angle, of course, that's going to be an even longer distance, right? And the slightest vibration of you moving in your
Sorry, Sovereign. I'm muted, brother. I apologize.
He froze.
Oh, I thought he stopped talking because my mouth was moving. I was talking to my girlfriend.
Something's going on. All right, we're back. I don't know. We're getting that problem with the internet again.
Look, I know what you're saying. Can you let me go a little bit further first? Because I've heard your explanations before.
Okay.
I've heard those explanations before. What I'm telling you is, there's people. Do you know how far it is from the far southwest corner of WA to the far northwest corner of northeast corner of Queensland? Do you know how far that is?
No, I do not. Not right offhand.
I'll tell you, it's equal exactly to the radius of the so-called fucking ball.
Well, what's the radius of the ball, and how do you know it's
the ball?
Can we go back 5 minutes?
Radius,
and Drake, can you share my screen, Dave, so that
I
can talk about it?
No, what?
Here we go. 5 minutes.
Will you let me finish?
Hang on.
Yes.
Let him finish.
Yeah, this is to help Drake.
Fuck.
My screen is to help Drake.
Fuck. Okay. Can I please not? I can't see it anyway, but let me finish. So, can you visualize me printing out a map of Australia, right, onto an A4, so it takes up the whole of the A4 sheet of paper, from corner to corner, that is equal to the scientifically accepted radius of the Earth, about 4,000 miles.
Hold on. Before you say that, scientifically accepted, there's no science in that at all because it's just assumed.
Hey, all right. Hey, generally accepted that I can measure the speed of the sun going past me. It travels at about 1,000 miles an hour, and it travels in an arc of about 15 degrees every hour, and I can watch it go past me. I only can believe what I can see. I cannot believe bullshit that has started from a ridiculous story. I can see with my own eyes that the sun and the moon are both exactly the same size.
Yeah. I know.
Well,
I agree.
wait. The sun and the moon are
Let
both
me-
exactly the same size.
Apparently.
Yeah, they appear that way to me. They appear that way to me too, Dr. Ake. Look, it's a ridiculous stretch of the imagination. Wait a second. It's a ridiculous stretch of the imagination to believe that there's something as coincidental as this object we call the moon, if indeed it is actually a solid object, just happens to be 400 times closer and 400 times smaller than the sun. So it only makes it appear as though it's the same size. Now, you see, this is where the ballers, they accept scale. But then when I tell them that I could reduce the speed, the distance, and the size of an object that they see in the sky to a quarter, and they would never know the difference. Okay. That's one of the biggest problems. So this 93 million, the assumption of a 93 million mile away sun based on assumptions treated as fact, it's ridiculous. It doesn't even stand to scientific scrutiny, and to use the word science in conjunction with it is blasphemous at best. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Doctor.
I totally agree. I agree with everything you're saying, but we should only really have faith in what we can actually see and measure. And I've done a lot of measurements. I've been to the top of the hill, just 20 km to my west. I've been to the top of the hill, and you can look it up. It's called Mount Franklin, right? Mount Franklin, Western Australia. And there's another place near Albany called Bluff Knoll. And I went to the top of Mount Franklin before sunrise, and I took a photograph of Bluff Knoll silhouetted against the sky, and that is 175 kilometers away. And I could see the terrain, all of the terrain between me and the objective. I used a P900, full zoom. And I pointed that camera on. That camera was on a spiritually level base, and I could swing that camera 180 degrees, and I could see the horizon to my west.
Sure.
Right. So it's not we definitely don't live on the outside of the ball. Now, right, these satellite dishes all the way across Australia, 4,000 miles, they all point to the top of a mountain in Papua New Guinea. And no, it's not just a little flimsy thing. It weighs thousands of tons. It's a huge mast and big microwave links. And it gets a signal from Melbourne, right? And then it transmits it by satellite to all of the customers across Australia.
Right. All those little nodes are
from where I stand on this so-called level plane, and I can point 35 degrees up, just a little bit east of north, and I'm actually pointing to Papua New Guinea. The only way that can be true is if this globe is inside out.
Right. Well, this is what I was getting at with this idea of satellite. Okay, the word satellite. All right. So when I was in the military, it's a station, right? Look, here's what I did. I was the net control station. I was the net control station for 5th Corps headquarters. Okay, and we had a network that consisted of other transmission stations set at various locations within the range of my communications that I communicated with. I was the central station. They were my satellite stations. And through use of doublet directional antennas, they could either just receive and respond to my communications, or they could retransmit my communication a further distance. They were satellites.
Only by line of sight.
Right. That's
So
why
the line of sight from where I'm standing here to Papua New Guinea shows me that we live on the inside of the surface of the ball.
That's interesting.
But it might not be a pure ball. When you go further south and further north to the poles, it's not actually the same because we're actually in a part of a toroidal field, or electromagnetic.
Didn't Augustine Picard say his description? I believe was something of like a large flat dish with an upturned edge. I don't know, man. Pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah. That's what he said. As he
So-
went higher and higher, the horizon raised to meet his eyesight.
Yep.
And as he went higher, it appeared the horizon rose in the distance.
Yep. You get a larger field of view. It's what goes on, man. Pretty crazy.
It reminds me of that project experiment in England. You know, those two gentlemen, they were like renowned scientists.
Yeah,
and they did that canal in England. I'm sure Ruhif knows what I'm talking about. That canal. It's like a really long canal in England, and they used it to prove the Earth didn't have curvature or something, you know?
Yeah.
I'll look it up right now.
So I was just looking at.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'd like to speak to what she just said. And
Okay.
I mean, I've been investigating flat Earth and what's going on
The
for a
Bedford
long
Canal.
time.
Sorry, Dr. A. The Bedford Canal.
Yeah, we're
John-
all aware of that.
Yeah, not sorry.
Okay, but let me explain a possibility to your imagination, because I don't know if you people realize it, but what is out there in this reality is our imagination. If you can't imagine something to be, then it cannot be.
Interesting.
Anyway, this Bedford Canal business, right? Okay, there's many people proven to themselves and others that the earth is flat and the water's flat. And I've been through it all and I've done it. But if we were on the inside of a sphere, and if the central energy it'll be 4,000 miles straight above me. The distance from my place to the opposite corner of Australia is the same as the distance from here to the center of the universe. The center of the universe is only
How do we know how
4,000
far away?
miles.
How do we know how far away the center of the universe is?
Because I have measured everything. I've told you, I've measured how far the sun travels and how long it takes. You can calculate the speed and the distance. For fuck's sake.
I'm trying to figure out what are you saying is the center of the universe then? Is it here in
the only thing that I can imagine with my imagination that comes directly from God, the creator, whatever you want to call him, he will be exactly 4,000 miles above me.
Okay.
And everybody else on Earth. And the reason these waterways and everything look flat is because if you take the curvature from the center 4,000 miles away and lay it out flat, it'll be equal to that curvature. But because the energy is centered 4,000 miles away, what appears to us to be flat is actually curving.
I see.
We can't see the curve because the light curves, our eyesight curves, everything curves. If you wanted to prove, there's a few, I can quote you, I can point you to a few documents to prove it mathematically. In South Africa, I knew a man who used to work in the mine shafts. These mine shafts went down over a mile, They were parallel shafts, and they had horizontal parallel tunnels between them, and they were measured with plumb bobs, and they were extremely accurate. The best engineers in the world dug these mines. If you put 2 plumb bobs down 2 mine shafts a mile deep and measure the distance between the tops of those lines and the bottoms of those plumb bobs, you will find that if they were extended, if those lines were extended, 4,000 miles away they would meet.
All right. Well, Ruhev's got something. He said, hold on. Ruhev's got something here that supports what you were saying, Dr. Ake. And I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to Ruhev, if y'all don't mind. Let Ruhev presentation.
What's up, Ruhev?
He's like,
Oh,
what?
This is before I thought this guy was sane. So.
Okay.
He was talking about the sunrise in Sydney or wherever he is in Western Australia. But the sun on the summer solstice for us rises south of east.
Where's that location on that X? I'm just curious in relation to the Tropic of Capricorn.
Sydney's south of the tropics.
South of the tropics. Okay,
yeah,
so you're actually seeing. So you will see a north. You will see a east by northeast and a west by southwest or northwest. I'm sorry, set and rise.
That's what you think I would see?
That's what you should see. Yeah. But there again,
that's not what I see.
Again, I'm looking at the sun and I'm thinking, what are we actually seeing?
Well, we're seeing something in that direction.
We
Doesn't
are.
matter what it is, but it's in that direction.
It does kind of matter what it is, because if it's not in a true location as to where we observe it, you understand? If it's not in a true location as to where we observe it, that's what I'm looking at, because I've seen this, and part of this that perplexes me with it, because I remember playing with this when I was a kid, is where do you see the sun? And I thought it was really crazy because everybody pointed to a different place. And that kind of incorporated in. I started thinking about that long ago when I was tricked into going to find the leprechaun at the end of the rainbow, right? And I noticed that rainbow, although it appeared to have physicality, would move as I changed my where I was looking at it from. So I don't know, I can't really tell you what's going on in Australia. If it even exists, you might be part of the CIA psyop to make us think that Australia. No, I'm just fucking with you.
No, they didn't get to root him. No,
I'm just fucking with you, Ruhif. I love that one, saying Australia doesn't exist. But I will tell you something I find rather interesting. And you might want to look into this too, because I think that this condition that we're in here with like what Antarctica and even Australia's existence is a result of something that occurred within the last 500 or 600 years. Okay, because we were looking at the Monte map, and we were looking at, it's like, all right, these motherfuckers were sailing all over the place, man. And where the fuck is Australia? But there's a huge part of what would be called Antarctica jutting out on this map that's called something along the lines of Austro-Antarctica or Austria or something like that, but it incorporates like Australia into the word. I'll have to look at it again, but I thought that was rather interesting, man, because I believe that the conditions we have on the plane are way different than they were like 600 years ago, 500 years ago.
But Australis just means south. That's all.
Okay. Because it's really weird. Right there, where just near where Australia should be depicted is this large jutting out of Antarctica sticking out.
Anyway, back to the sunrise point.
All right. So
you can claim, well, you can hypothesize at least that the sun is some, I don't know, magical.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what the sun is or the moon is.
All right. But if it's a physical object, right, it should appear to the northeast at sunrise. It doesn't. So on the one hand, you've got the globe explaining it easily, and on the other hand, you've got an ad hoc some magical sun
Not
Right.
really. Not really. I kind of, I'll experiment with it further too, with a little domed model that I actually had a sun appear inside merely from the source of light outside of the dome itself. It's kind of neat. I want to see what that would look like from inside because I have a little button camera that I can stick inside the model and I can move my light source on the outside. I want to try that.
Yeah, that's great. That's testing your hypothesis. Yeah.
'Cause I want to know how the fucking shit works. I know it's not a ball. That's dumb as shit, right? So I want to know how this stuff works too. Is what I'm looking at actually real? Am I seeing a projection?
Right. You know how it works on the ball, though, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. But yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll bring up the next slide then. Hold on. There you go.
Okay. So what's around that ball?
What do you mean?
What's around that ball? What's all that black? What's in that black outside that ball?
Hang on. We're talking about the direction of the sunrise.
I understand I'm talking about the direction of the sun, but before we can start putting shit outside in the black, we got to understand what is the black.
Yeah, we'll get there in a second, but you understand that's the direction of sunrise on a globe. Yeah?
I'm too stupid. I don't get it.
Well, that's me in Sydney, right?
Right.
That's north, and that's south, and right, and it's the summer solstice.
Right.
So the southern hemisphere is like pointed towards the sun. All right, so this is my.
Oh, wait a second. Wait a second. When in the world have you ever seen parallel sun rays come in?
Yeah. Does this not explain the direction of sunrise on a globe? That's all I'm asking.
Not completely.
Now it does.
Because now you're dealing with parallel sun rays. Yep. You've got a definite terminator line on your fucking thing. It's not really an accurate depiction of anything. It's a cartoon on a cartoon, man.
Yeah. Our model is that the sun is very far away, which is supported by the fact that it doesn't change in angular size. Therefore, the sun rays will be basically parallel.
There again, that's up for debate because there's a lot of evidence to show that it does change in angular size. But go ahead.
Well, let's go to my photos of the sun, which
we're not going to daisy chain around here. Go ahead and make your hypothesis. You got it. Listen, what I said before still stands. You have to go by what you can prove. Okay. And you don't have any proof of the sun's size or distance. Sorry.
I sent you an email about proof probably.
I don't give a shit about the email about proof. I could say
asking me to prove stuff.
Could I say the sun is twice the size that it is and twice as far away and we're going twice as fast? You wouldn't know any fucking difference.
Right. You could, but that's the question about proof.
Well, there you go. So why are we even entertaining a hypothesis that has no basis in reality?
Let me bring up because we keep asking me to prove stuff.
Well, no, we have to. You do. You're bringing all kinds of supposition to the fucking table.
All right.
We stick with what we can prove. Okay. And you're assuming, again, with assumptions, you're assuming that the fucking sun is this magnificent size and distance away. And there's absolutely no proof of that whatsoever. They've changed that bullshit 7 or 8 times since they started.
Just from a physical experience, it feels close. It's so powerful. You can't stare at it without going blind. And 2, so many civilizations worshipped it and believed it gave them strength and immortality if they were, in its presence. That's just my physical dumb caveman experience opinion.
All right. So I've got the email that I sent to Dave.
Hey, I'd like to ask Goofy a question. If your little model with those arrows pointing straight at the Earth, and one circulation is a day, right? Day and night.
Yep.
Then why do we have seasons if that's the way the sun's coming in?
Right, because the tilt of the Earth towards the sun. You have
then every day we would have 4 seasons, then, right?
No,
in certain parts of the world, different seasons.
Hey.
For some reason, Green, that one.
Just asking him.
We're actually. Did you know that we're actually a few million miles away further from the sun during our summer up here than we are in our winter? And that's why when you go outside, listen to me. It's because of that.
bullshit.
when you go outside, if you tilt your head back to that same angle, you'll get frostbite on your fucking forehead. Because
Apparently.
that matters. Get out of here.
Well, I'm just saying that a day is 24 hours, day and night. So if the sun is sitting straight out from us, we would not have a season. Right? And the people far away would always be cold, and the people closest would always be hot.
I wonder how you could not. I wonder how you could not notice the constant change in velocity required for an elliptical orbit. That's ridiculous, man.
Okay, you keep asking me.
Well, never mind. Go on with what you were talking about.
Yeah, you keep asking. You got to prove something.
All right, go ahead.
And I keep telling you, you can't. Right. Science doesn't.
Well, then you don't have shit. Just a story, right? You have a story.
What do you when you say prove something to me? What does that look like?
What does what look like? A
Any kind of
with arrows pointing at it? It looks like a cartoon with arrows pointing.
I think just not to, this is what I do for a living, but I think just immediate here, what Ruhif is trying to say is, in order to argue using proof, how can I show you proof if the proof is, flawed by presentation, just by presenting it?
Well, it's not that it's flawed by presentation. What it comes down to is, here is a story that I have absolutely only circumstantial evidence to back up. Okay? That's what you've come with. I have a story with circumstantial evidence that I believe proves my hypothesis.
No. I say science cannot prove things.
Well, then so why the fuck are we even using it? Why the fuck are we even using it? We use it to rule out. We use it to rule out the impossibilities, don't we?
We use it to falsify things. Yes.
No, do we use it to rule out?
American
all evidence.
In American school systems, in American school systems, we are always taught that science is what we use to prove through analytical debriefing, using multiple analytical, what do they call them? Hypotheses, right? Or whatever it's called. That's how we prove things, by finding the most right, not the absolute right.
We come to these proof through the elimination of the impossibilities.
Yeah, no, it's not proof. You're right. Yeah, it's not.
So when you say prove something, what do you mean?
We come to the truths by eliminating the impossibilities. That's what we do with science. Okay? And thereby we come to a better understanding of what we're trying to figure out by ruling out the impossibilities. So when I come home and I find a cake pan on the floor and it's completely clean and the cake is gone, right? I can use that scientific method to determine who did that. So who was in my house while I was gone? Only my dogs. Well, it's very possible someone came in, ate the cake, washed the dish, and put it on the floor. However, we know that that's highly unlikely and very improbable. So I can eliminate that now by checking my security cameras to determine, was it indeed the dog, or did someone break in, eat the cake, wash the pan, and put it on the floor? Okay, so now we've come to the conclusion. We've come to the conclusion, but not the proof.
Not the proof,
that
right?
The dog is the most likely culprit for the cake being gone, right? Okay, so that's what we're doing. So when you have something that is just a made up claim, like we know that the sun is such and such a distance away, and we know, no, we don't know that. You've been told that preposterous story, and there's a bunch of circumstantial evidence that you claim backs it up. When in reality, the circumstantial evidence that gets presented is actually has multiple explanations possible.
And we use those measurements based on mathematics. I mean, we don't have the ability to travel the 93 million miles to get to the sun, so we use stipulated equations to come up with these equations. Do we not?
Well, the equations are merely describing. The equation is merely describing the story that they're trying to tell numerically, but it still incorporates the same assumptions that were when it was verbalized.
Did you prove that your dogs ate it, or did you just have very good evidence and it explains the hypothesis?
I would say that would be proof.
Okay, but this is great because I went to 5 years of law school.
That's the question.
I went to 5 years of law school for this, and I got to say, this is great, though, because in the court of law, you don't have to prove that the murderer is who is being accused. You just have to convince a jury. So it's like the discovery of evidence in the face of generalism. If it looks right, it looks right.
Right. What's the standard? What's the criminal standard?
In what regard? That's kind of a generalized question. Like
you can frame anybody
proof beyond a reasonable doubt, right?
So in this case, it would be the canine is the suspect, the accused, and the home is the place of the crime. So you would look at who is in the home at all times, who frequents it. Do raccoons get in the casket? You know, it's probably the dog or the people that live in it, right? And so ultimately, that's kind of, you go off of the generalized reality that's presented, which is why in the court of law,
criminal case.
What do you mean? What's the standard? The standard is the code of law. So if you've broken the law, you were upheld to the law that you said.
The standard in a criminal case is proof beyond a reasonable doubt, correct?
No. See, that's okay. That when you go to trial, when you go to see, a lot of people get that confused because people will watch a lot of movies or read books about that stuff, you know. But when you go to trial, reasonable doubt is something that's presented for someone who's accused and the evidence is presented against them. But like O.J. Simpson is a great fucking example. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. We get taught that in the first year of law school. So what I'm trying to say is reasonable doubt only applies when the evidence is overwhelming that the suspect is guilty. Then you have to come up with a reason that it may have been someone else. Yes, it's happened, but it can't be the guy you're saying it is. So here's a reasonable doubt it could be someone else. It's kind of hard to apply that to the dog eating the food in that house. I guess you could apply it in the sense of a rat got to the food and you don't clean your house well, so you have rats infesting your home. I mean, I don't know,
You said you've done 5 years of law school, and you're sort of arguing with me about reasonable doubt and probable cause and balance of probabilities and that sort of stuff. Like, I'm kind of don't believe you.
Well, see, the argument that you're trying to present, it's fallible. See, like if I say, what is the standard in a criminal case? Are you going to say that's reasonable doubt for somebody that smashed a glass to get some milk for their family, or somebody that raped a girl? Like, that's what I'm trying to explain to you is you can't just use reasonable doubt for every situation. Like a dog getting into some food.
Is the standard.
No,
in a criminal case, that is the standard.
No, it's not. Okay, so what's going on in America or in Europe where all these people are stealing and breaking into businesses and not being prosecuted? What's the standard for that criminal case?
No, the standard to finding someone guilty is that you've proved it beyond a reasonable doubt, not whether they're charged or not. That's a discretionary thing, right?
No, yeah, of course it's discretionary, but I don't know. I think maybe you're going off of British law because Australia does follow that sense, and we learn through British law as well. But in America, reasonable doubt is something that's brought into a case court argument when it's already been agreed upon by the judge, the jury, the prosecutor, and the defense that the crime has occurred. Like the murder took place, we know somebody did it. So the goal is to make it reasonably doubtful that the person that's being accused couldn't have been the only one to do it. It could have been X, Y, and Z. That's what reasonable doubt means in American law, is all I'm trying to explain.
It's the same everywhere. But that's what I'm trying to say, is that is Dave asking for evidence beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yeah, I'm asking for that reasonable, without reasonable doubt. And every bit of evidence that you bring forth has reasonable doubt because it is not the only possible explanation for the things that are going on.
Okay, but is it a reasonable explanation, like the sun not being, in the direction that we see it in?
Oh, there again, that's begging the whole idea. Look, as I've determined, I don't know where the sun is supposed to be. I'm not exactly sure how the sun and moon travel. I'm looking into some of the ideas that go along with it, that it's almost within a, not just a spiral, but a conical spiral almost of its height and altitude actually changing.
Okay, but you get what I'm talking about, right? This idea of proof.
No, I get what you're talking about. I get what you're talking about. But what's nerve-wracking for me is that what you're saying is essentially the what I'm placating this argument with can't be criticized or judged because it's infallible. And what I'm saying it is fallible. So like, how can you just say the original context of what's being argued is not corrupted or not wrong, as opposed to the guy saying no, it doesn't rise in the direction it's rising, it rises this way? Because I could equally present just as much information where the governments and the organized scientific authoritative bodies of the world have lied and been caught lying. You know, COVID's a great example of how much shit was fucking lied to us about, and we found out later a lot of shit wasn't right. You know, I'm a fucking vaccinated person. I got COVID after I got vaccinated. We were lied to about that. So it's just like, what I'm saying is like, that's a straw man argument, kind of. Do you know what I mean? Like, to say what I'm telling you originally can't be criticized, but what you're saying can be criticized.
Can I hog the mic for 1 minute? Because I've got to go.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
I hopefully I've sort of got a little bit through to Dave about the subjectivity of evidence as opposed to proof. All right. So what I think the best explanation is this model that explains all the observations, doesn't have contradictions, and doesn't introduce a whole bunch of ad hoc.
It does have a lot of assumptions, though, as I've already.
That's okay. Yeah, hypotheses are assumptions.
Well, no. There's assumptions within the hypothesis.
Yeah,
the assumptions, and these assumptions. Hold on a minute. These assumptions within the hypothesis are treated as fact.
Yes, but that's a different. Yeah,
it's not. No, it's not, because we cannot use it as a fact if it's an assumption.
Right, but if you make a whole bunch of assumptions in your hypothesis, and your hypothesis explains everything, that is why we treat them as facts. They may not 100% be true.
There again, you've taken a bunch of assumptions that have other explanations, treated them as fact, and woven them into a cockamamie story that's physically impossible. Because, as we discussed before,
but are those assumptions
that far away? Now, when if I make a statement, hold on. If I make a statement that is a subject of immutable fact, if I said, this is not a claim, this is a fact. A human being cannot turn into a fucking chicken.
Right.
That is a fact. And we can all agree on that is a fact. It's not a claim, and I do not have to prove the negative. So when I say that it's an immutable fact that you must have containment for fluid pressure, this throws a big monkey wrench into where's the sun? What is it in? Are we seeing it in its true position? A whole host of things that take all of those assumptions off of the table.
Okay, I've got to go. I will try and be back in an hour if you're still.
Dude, you're awesome, dude. It's always so cool to talk to you, man. It's an honor, brother.
Thanks, mate. All right, see you soon.
All right.
Cheers. That guy's a trip, man. He's always
can I have?
Go ahead. Who's that?
Can I have a word or not?
Yeah, go for it, Doctor.
Can I have a word?
Yeah, you got it, brother. It's all you.
What's the name? What's the name of this other Aussie guy over east? What's his name?
Ruhif?
You just taught the guy you were just talking to. What's his name?
Ruhif.
Rudolph. Like Rudolph the Red-Nosed.
You can go Rudolph. That's okay.
Hey, here's something for him to think about. I was just a minute ago when I had my mic turned, standing outside. My shadow at the moment is exactly the same height as I am. So that means that the sun is exactly 45 degrees above the horizon, and it's in the far north direction. It's 12 o'clock midday here, right? the sun is due north. It's due north at 45 degrees. And the guy Rudolph is in Sydney, right? Sydney is 3 hours ahead of us. If he looks up at the sun, he will see that the sun is 45 degrees above the horizon to the west. That sun has traveled 3,000 miles. That sun has traveled 3,000 miles across the sky since his lunchtime in Sydney. Of course I can measure the speed and the size of the sun. Of course I can.
I'm not here.
God damn
Mute
it.
that phone.
Answer the fucking phone, dude.
Take a message. I'll get back to him later.
Or mute the mic so we don't have to hear
Hey.
it.
Is that a fax? Just the fax, ma'am.
Oh my god.
Oh my Jesus. This is car warranty expired. I guarantee it.
The Indians are trying to go to Mars now. They got
Man. Get that extended warranty, Dr. Ake. That shit, bro. So we got Dreamy came up on here. What's up, Dreamy?
Oh, I'm just here listening, thinking that people just can't be this willfully ignorant.
Well,
Not really. I mean,
they have an agenda, Dreamy.
they do. They do. It gets very, very obnoxious.
God damn you said it, baby. You said it.
But yeah, with his sun coming straight in with all those straight lines hitting, we would not have seasons. There's just absolutely no way. And if the globe is on a tilt, you know, like they're claiming, it just doesn't work. It's just more garbage. It's just more of that baffling you with bullshit kind of scenario.
Yeah, it is exactly that, man. It's like, come on, man. You really got to jump through all these fucking mental hoops.
Yeah.
When it's just so right there in your face, simple.
Yeah.
They want it to be complex. They want it to be this crazy nonsense, chaotic shit, so that they can have a dream of going and fucking some green bitch in the future or something. I don't know what's behind it.
I commend the guy that did the flat Earth clock. That is absolutely amazing. It does, just by watching it, looking at it, seeing it, that alone explains it very, very clearly without any kind of frou-frou bullshit or words.
Yeah, it's cool.
I mean, I always knew it was flat since I was a little kid because of the water only. And I didn't question anything beyond that. You know, whether somebody said a globe or this or that, and you know, I've used the word myself because we're programmed. We truly are programmed, but to have knowledge, it doesn't really have anything to do with a belief system. Belief and knowledge are two different things. And these people do not have knowledge. They just have this blind faith. And to me, that is what's destroying everybody. Blind faith. You can't have it in any area of your life.
Mm-hmm.
When Leviathan was talking about court and, you know, and the probable cause, I've been accused 3 times of something based on lies and been in court. And so even in that situation, you know, I don't worry about it because in all 3 cases, I had unequivocal proof that I wasn't where these people claimed I was. I had receipts from stores. I was out of town. So when people see, you know, when people say things, you know, other people can believe it easily. They can believe it.
Well, look, man, even like you pointed out, Dreamy, like you pointed out that diagram of his, right? Now, I think it's really interesting that if we would have switched right at that moment and said, let's talk about the eclipse, he would show you a fucking diagram using divergent rays to explain
Right.
the shadow, right? He's going to show that for the eclipse, and I'm not picking on Ruhif, but they all do this, and then
Yeah.
turn around and go with that stupid shit right there. And I'm like, no, that doesn't work, bro.
Well, like Ruhif's really polite and well spoken to, and
Yeah.
I'm so new on this whole scene just as a researcher that I find it intriguing how people say there's these military kind of operations going on with this stuff because they're aware people are waking up, and I do think it's ironic, that they use like kind of straw man arguments. Like Dreamy was just saying, she had alibis to win her cases, or with Dave when he went in to argue his gun case. It's just like you can use that argument of the reasonable doubt, but we're not talking about that. We're not, a dog's not going to trial for murder. We're talking about a dog eating food or the sun rising a certain. So it's like they'll take these and then they challenge your integrity, which I don't really care. I got nothing to gain by convincing anyone what I do for a living, but it's like the same tactics are always used, and that's very intriguing to me because I find that like very weird.
Right, in all different facets of life, not just the earth, not just the courtrooms, not just in our daily lives, but it's happening all around us with people that have no clue what evidence is. I would say evidence is a better word than proof. We have proofs in alcohol, right? But evidence of itself.
Well, let's think about this. I'm going to put it both of you guys is where you can get this, right? So you got a prosecutor and there's somebody that's being held by the law, right? And so the prosecutor who's supposed to present facts starts placing assumptions into his facts, right?
Right.
That you are uncleverly don't notice, okay? And for instance, he says, so the defendant here, Dreamy, obviously a person of low moral character and of very little means. Now, that is the assumption, you see, but it's treated as a fact because they did it. So they say, that's right, the downward force due to gravity.
I object, Sovereign.
Yeah, right. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you can do that and throw these assumptions in, and it's the downward acceleration, of course, due to gravity. It's like the Harley guy at 9/11, and the buildings collapsed, obviously, because of blah, 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 blah. What? Your assumption is going to be now the narrative, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so this is obviously because of blah, 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 blah. No, it is not obviously because of that. You see a downward acceleration, bang, that's all. You don't know what the fuck it's due to. Right. You can't just say that.
Yeah. It's like I was watching a documentary on creatures of the deep, the deep sea, where there's really no light getting down there and stuff that and whatnot. And in that, it was a very good documentary, except throughout it, out of the blue, having nothing to do with what was being seen or talked about, they kept throwing in global warming. And I'm like, these little clips and edits of, them saying these things like, indoctrinating people's mind subliminally while you're watching the documentary.
Yep.
Right.
You're absolutely 100% right. They do that in court too.
Well, it's like those people that drive Teslas that have this virtual signal, like, I'm saving the planet and you're in your gas-powered car. It's like, have you done the research on lithium-ionized batteries and how much they have to mine the earth to get them and how they're not recyclable afterwards? Like, you guys are doing more damage. Like, what are you talking about?
Exactly. When you're putting out more energy to extract these things think about a battery, what you're supposed to dispose of them in a certain way. You can't just throw them in the trash.
Right.
I mean,
you can't throw. Okay, like here's another way they throw it in. So the sun rays come in parallel, obviously, because the sun is 93 million miles away. Well, wait a minute. No, we don't see any parallel sun rays, and you just made that 93 million miles. You pulled that out of your ass. What are you talking about? So now you're going to weave these assumptions together and then make another assumption based on those. That is called pulling shit out of your ass, man. That's exactly what that is. I mean, I don't even know. How do they even equate that to being anything close to a scientific method?
Oh my God.
Somebody that called themselves a scientist said it? Let's get real. Astrophysics and theoretical physics are exactly that. They're fantasies. They're fantasies.
The best.
Yeah, described with mathematics.
The Earth clock and the way the sun moves into the northern and the southern is what creates those seasons.
Exactly.
And it takes 65 days to create to go through those seasons.
Guys, I don't mean to get the topic or anything, but what is the deal with the greater plane? Like how everyone says there's other species and like aliens are really over Antarctica, like past Antarctica. What do you guys think about that? Is that false information, more distracting propaganda? What do you guys think about that?
I don't know. The fact that we're hearing so much about it might actually indicate that it is a psyop. I don't know. All I can say is I don't know. Interesting theories. Very, very interesting theories. There's been reports that are also very, very interesting from Bird and other such people. Equally as interesting regarding the North Pole. But there again, I don't know, and I probably will never know in this physical life because I can't go there. I can't check for myself. And I live in a world run by the chief deceiver.
There is a spirit
at all times. That's all. Yeah.
I believe there is a spiritual realm of good and evil, if those are the only, for lack of better words, right?
Right.
So, people that experience different phenomena that can see like evil spirits, shadow people, different things like that. I mean, if you've ever been in a situation where you like walking in a room, you can tell if the people are good people or if they're not good people.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I have done this I've done this at a courthouse. I go in the bathroom, I speak against the evil so that only the truth and I mean, what's real truth can be spoken. And I go in the courtroom and I notice that the DAs will stutter, the judges stutter, the lawyers are stuttering, but eventually the actual truth comes out. So I've witnessed it just by practicing spiritual warfare. Wow. I have seen shadow people. I've seen them converge into somebody, a whole bunch, like so fast and so many I couldn't count them, but it dimmed the whole room. And there was a window behind the person where the light was coming in brighter from outside. So that was really freaky to me. So,
Dreamy, what convinced me about the supernatural, the only thing that ever really did, was in Catholic school, I learned that just like law school and medical school, there is a school for exorcists in the Vatican where you have to go to school for 4 years, and then you're like the special forces of the priests of the Catholic Church. Then you go and exorcise demons out of people. I was like, wait, they got a whole thing? Like there's a whole thing for this? Okay, what is going on here?
Dude, there's a great movie called the Pope's Exorcist or the Vatican's Exorcist, and it's got who the hell is in that?
Oh, is that the one with Adrian? No, not Adrian Broner.
No.
Practicing that because
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe, yeah.
Russell Crowe, yeah. And what was it? He was even getting admonished by these cardinals,
Yeah, well, that's what freaks me out is like Operation Dominique, Operation Fishbowl, right? That was a real thing. After World War II, during the Cold War era, we had a mission where our naval military forces in the Atlantic Ocean shot multiple missiles, atomic bombs, whatever they were, we don't know. That's what they said. Yeah, they tried to break the fucking bowl. We're in a bowl, right? So they failed. They failed, and it's so funny because when you look at that time, what was huge? I'm sure Dreamy and Dave could speak to this. The whole ozone layer and hairspray thing.
God, yeah.
Right. What about the missiles you guys just shot up into the goddamn sky?
Well, think about this. They said ozone. Ozone was a reaction between gases in the atmosphere and sunlight. This is what we were told, right? Okay, I can dig that. Dig a fucking hole in gas for me one time. Let me see how that rolls for you.
Well, they said that there was a hole in the ozone layer, and that we were all going to die because that hole was going to let out all the air. Right? That was one of the narratives. Now,
because of your big
the
1980s
balloon and then let it go.
It was your big 1980s hair, Dreamy. Okay, the big hair in the 80s ate the ozone layer. I hope you're happy.
I had feathers back then. I want you to know. I had wings.
we had some big ass hair back then, baby. I'll tell you what. That was the deal. That's what was sexy, man. Big hair and a full bush, babe. That's what we were after back then.
But seriously,
another thing that's really weird now too is, you know, like back in the day, you had the whole David Hasselhoff, you know, females having hair down there. It was attractive. It was popular. It was a sign of growth and maturity. It was sexy. Mm-hmm. Now it's like shave it all off, wax it all off. Like what are y'all, pedophiles? Like you want your fucking partner to look like a baby with no.
They are trying to get everybody on board with that same fucking agenda, babe. They really are. They're trying at every turn. And then part of it, of course, as we've discussed before on this platform, it is target the children, because that's how you shape the future. Is you that song they sang to you and you thought it was because they cared about the fucking kids, you know? I believe the children are the future, right? God damn right. They were telling, we're gonna tell them how to be weird. Nothing you can do because you gave them to us, right?
I remember that. I wasn't born.
Basically, what they were fucking doing, and it's like, get the fuck out of here with this shit. Leave my kids alone.
Yeah.
Hey.
Well, because in the 80s, because in the 80s they started. That's when they started to try to influence the children more. I don't know. I think what we're seeing now is the fact that there is so much coming to light that's why people are scared. That's why they're afraid. That's why they want to shut us up. Yeah. They don't want the truth to be known, but the truth, there's a saying, the light cannot outshine the darkness. And that's the truth.
Right.
Gotcha, MCAX. Chilling says 80s men had mullets. And there's something that we learned from that, and we can all take away from the 80s and the mullets.
What?
The mullet on men was just wrong. And toilet paper put on the roll like a fucking mullet is wrong, man.
I love men with long hair. It's amazing. I think that's a fantastic thing. I don't think people should cut their hair.
Well, you know, in Sikh culture, my heritage, my family from Punjab, India, you're not supposed to cut your hair at all. That's why our people have like turbans and beards.
Isn't that Sikhs? Sikhs?
Yeah, Sikhs. Yeah, that's yeah. And essentially, it's like, you know, it's a lion's mane, and women too. You're not supposed to cut your hair. You just let it grow your whole life. And you know, it's I've always thought that intriguing. You know, older cultures having these very spiritual things, like walking barefoot in India is a big thing because it connects you to the Earth's magnetic pole and whatever, you know.
Exactly. And they go, they dissuade that. They dissuade people from that by saying, "Oh, look how uncivilized and dirty and filthy they are. They don't even have shoes, for Christ's sake."
Well, you know, Dave, what was crazy was I used to train with these military guys in jiu-jitsu and stuff, just grappling, wrestling and stuff, and they would wear these Vibrams. You know those 5-finger shoes thingies? They're like toe shoes.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? And I would be like, what the hell is this? And they'd be like, you got to try it, man. It's fucking amazing. It's, you know, those Mexican foot runners, they run hundreds of miles with bare feet.
Yeah.
This is how we're supposed to do it. So I went and bought some, and they were ridiculous, like $300, but they taught me how to use my toes. because every time I walked like I had shoes on, I would hit my heel and it would hurt my knee. Like
Yeah.
a shock would go up to my knee. So I got better at using my toes, and I was sore for the first few weeks I had them
Yeah, it's
because
good
all these
stuff, man.
new muscles, well, I shouldn't say new, old muscles were being re-engaged.
Yes, yes.
And I learned that we got fucked by whoever came up with a fucking shoe.
Well,
You know, they fucked us.
you just touched on something really interesting because
They fucked us,
you
man.
know we oh yeah, it fucks up the shape of your foot too.
Yeah.
So what you're doing, think about it, and it's a little bit of wordplay. You touched on it too. So what we've done is used rubber, and we've insulated our soul from the earth, our souls from the earth. What is
Right.
it? The bottom of your foot? Why is it called the sole? That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm always barefooted unless I have to go somewhere and go
Well,
to the
you
store or something. But then I don't want all those germs anyways. But the minute I walk in the house, off come my shoes, and that's how it's.
Yeah. Well, like, walking in your backyard in the grass and that kind, they say that's like really good for your health and stuff. But
Yeah.
what was I gonna say? Foot reflexology. You ever go to like an Asian massage place?
Yeah.
The Chinese have this map of the foot and how it connects to every organ and vital, blood
Yes,
circulatory.
because that's where your hands and your feet is where all the nerve endings are.
Yeah.
Right.
So they can massage those, and it really works. There was a guy, he was in New York. I met him. Well, he was from New York, I should say. I met him in Texas, but he had been a taxi driver. And one day I had a really bad headache, and he goes, "Come here." And he took my hands, and right between my thumb and my finger, that soft part, he started massaging it. And my headache went away. I mean, instantly, my headache went away. It was incredible. I'm like, how'd you do that? It's almost like magic. He didn't offer me a Tylenol or an aspirin or nothing. He just said, "Come here." And he started that massage. So reflexology for hands and feet is awesome. It does help.
Right. Wait, what is this comment from Mr. B? Is that a joke? Because I don't get it.
I'm wondering, man. I'm wondering because that would depend on, are you walking? Are you on the hump?
Yeah, it keeps you from walking.
He's got to be joking. He's got to be.
That's funny.
Axon,
Oh my God.
Monday says, "Yeah, I've been to an Asian massage parlor a few times."
I think he went to one of those happy ending ones.
It's not that kind, bro.
No happy endings, man.
No happy ending at the foot massage, bro.
I believe it was Beijing. They had that hospital where they didn't actually do surgery. They did a prayer type healing method, and people would go in and actually leave healed. They made that hospital shut down. It actually really does work, but they made those people here in the western part of the country believe that this was a bunch of hogwash and everything.
Sure, that's always
put them down until they had to go out of business, literally.
Yeah.
People
I mean,
don't
even in India, they got like those, shamans and monks and gurus and all those people that I would never understand it. I've always thought it was crazy. Even to this day, I think it's kind of nonsense. But there's literally people that like just sit with their eyes closed like this in a crisscross applesauce position, and their like toenails are outgrowing a foot because they haven't moved for years. They don't eat, they don't shower, they just sit there and they're like meditating or something. And there's lines of Indian people from all over the world, from England, from Australia, coming back to India to give this dude money and food, and they leave it by his feet, and like he doesn't touch it. I don't know who grabs it later, but they go back to their car and drive away. It's just like the level of spiritual prowess in Asia is so deep. And I've always wondered what that is, like that part of the world has always been so in tune with the afterlife per se.
But you can create a gimmick out of anything. Even a lawyer can be just treated, I mean, everybody has a belief of some sort, right? But we all know, like, I was born in the United States. So what religion would I actually be? brought up in as a rule. Well, it would be Christian, which I was. But had I been born in India,
Right.
I would most likely, because more prevalent there, it's Hindu or Muslim. So
Right.
what would I be if I would have been born a little child in India? Or what about China? And when you start to question yourself about your birthplace and the belief systems and all these different ideas, you start to realize it's a lot of garbage.
Well, yeah, look at just even where the examples you use, Dreamy, right? Okay. You know what the difference between a Christian and a Buddhist is?
What?
The Buddhist will tolerate the Christian.
The Christian will say you need to get baptized or you're going to hell.
Yeah.
The Christian will kill you if you don't take on their beliefs too, because we watched that with the Indian Wars, didn't we?
I'll tell you what, we're up here on 3.5 hours. I'm going to go ahead
Just
and
saying.
cut her down here, and I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to say any last words before we sign off tonight. I'll just go around the panel. Leviathan Anunnaki, God is real. What do you got for us, brother?
It's AJ, brother. I just got to say thank you, guys. It's an honor. I'm so happy I ran into you guys. Scouring the internet for a good group of people is finding a diamond in the rough, and I found them, and I'll always stay in tune. And thank you for letting me join always and letting me, speak my piece. You guys are good people. You guys have good hearts and good souls, and to me, that's worth more than $1 billion. Thank you.
All right, thanks, AJ. Dr. Ake, you got something for us short before we cut out here? I will take your silence as a no. Moonbounce, how about you, brother?
Can you hear us now?
I can.
Hey, I just want to say, man, it's innocent till proven guilty.
That's right.
That's what I want to say, because because that proof thing, it's just like innocent till proven guilty, and that whole thing of the proof thing is like the way that I was reading that thing he had on the screen was that you can't really prove anything. I mean, in actuality, there's no proving anything.
Right.
So the whole proof thing is like, well, you got to have proof. You got to have proof. And it's like, really, there is no proof. I mean, there's substantiality, I guess you might say, because you could say, well, my car has 4 tires on it, and that's the truth. And there's proof that there's 4. But in any kind of other terms of, proven like beyond a reasonable doubt that, like what Dreamy was saying, because that's the way I was thinking. Is she said it is like you can't really say the word proof. I mean, that word has to almost be out of your vocabulary, because I'm trying to think what word she actually used, but
evidence. I used the word evidence.
Evidence, yeah. It's like, you just bring forth evidence. You can't really prove it.
Right.
And it's kind of like when he was showing that picture of like a globe with the sun rays, and it was like them saying, hey, well, the sun rises, and it's almost like, they almost have to quit. Everybody has to quit saying sunrise, because it doesn't rise any way, shape, or form on any model. Even a flat earth, you can't say that sun's rising. It's not. It's staying there and just moving around. And the same way with if it's 90,
right?
If it's 93
it was like,
million.
My grandparents used the term sunrise, not sunrise, daybreak.
Okay.
Right. See, right. Daybreak. I've heard that before too, because it's almost like those terms like apnos. When you're saying apnos to take off the sphere part, and it's people just adjusting according to their. See, and I want to say adjusting according to their beliefs. Like it's the same thing, because you're adjusting that according to your belief in a way. But you could say no. There's just no way that the globe could exist, and I mean. That's still a speculation to a certain extent, even though the scientific method, you can still rule out just certain things in the way everything's done, like the physics and whatnot. So, yeah, I really enjoyed tonight. So I got a lot out of it too. So, yeah, it was a great program or whatever.
I hope everybody did. I hope everybody did, because that's the thing. And like you're saying, and this is what gets me too, is if I say, well, you have to prove that or something, and they're like, no, we don't, because science doesn't prove things. And then if I say something, they say, well, you have to prove that. Are you fucking kidding me? Where do you get these double standards from, bro? I'm not playing that shit with y'all, So
the
that's
one
why
that
I
makes
told,
the claim must prove
right. That's
bring
why I
forth.
told. Listen, this is why I told McToon. I says, you want to do a thing? I'm down for it, but you bring only what you can prove. Okay. Now I don't want to hear about what you look at in the sky, because we haven't determined what those fucking things are. We don't know what kind of a medium they're in. We don't know what distance they are. We only know that they move in the sky. And looking at the sky to determine the condition of where you stand is more than ridiculous. Okay. We've gone over that before of why it's ridiculous. It's a stretch of logic. So we have to go right to the fundamentals. Without the conditions we are in right now, we couldn't even be breathing in order to have this discussion. And why is that? Because our very existence depends on the pressure around us. What we breathe, and even what makes up our entire material existence. Okay. None of which can exist without a containment. So before we even discuss what's outside of this system, we have to determine how is this system actually working. Okay, now if you want to think you're still on a ball, great. You're going to have to come up with a way that you have a solid bubble holding the air in around your ball. And that's going to require you to know what the medium in which this ball is suspended is.
Exactly.
Which we've already we can't.
It's the same. Right. It's the same thing you were talking about with the container and the containment. That trickiness of any kind of understanding of the difference of whether it's in containment with no lid or containment with the lid, because the experiment you did with the water in the bowl and you put a lid on it and you flipped it over, and then to go, well, see, then people would say, well, see, that was true containment. That was actually containment, where they would say anything open, any three-sided object is a lack of containment. But even when the ZX or XZ did his experiment and saying, look, I'm going to cause this thing without containment, he never really did, because if he would have did that same thing, like you said, well, if you dump the box over, when he just tilted that thing a little bit to the side, all the water would drain out of it too. So to claim that whether that was even true containment or not, it like starts getting ridiculous. But that it's actually has to have some type of a container. It didn't matter.
Always, even a vacuum, even their vacuum would require containment. And how do you have a vacuum that has material in it? How do they have these nebula clouds and gas clouds if it's a vacuum? That can't exist. Matter doesn't attract to, or gases don't attract to themselves. It's never been shown ever once in the world. I want to address Mr. B said, could we use parallax to measure the distance to the moon? I believe you probably can. However, I think it would be kind of a fool's errand, because it would be the same as trying to use parallax to find the distance to a rainbow or to a reflection. That's just my opinion. So I'm going to give Dreamy the last word here, and then I'm going to say goodnight. What do you got for us, Dreamy?
I'm going to keep it short. Don't fall for those who try to baffle you with bullshit. Question everything. That's all I got to say tonight.
All right. All right, y'all. Well, thanks everybody for coming
love
on.
Y'all.
And we love y'all. So we're going to just leave it out here with always remember, the Lord loves a working man or woman. I don't want to be sexist here. Don't trust Whitey. See your doctor and fire his ass, because he'll probably kill you. Good night, everybody.